B'Shem HaShem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back in Aventura, Florida, doing our weekly Shiur, Ikvitad Mashiach, Erev MaShiach series based on Rav Wasserman Alav Shalom's Sefer Ikvitad Mashiach. So far in the last few months, Baruch Hashem, we've gotten a lot of insights about what the Rav was going through many years ago, but I think even more inspiring, invigorating, and surprising is how clear it is for us today. Because it seems like every time we do a shiur, it's the exact section that we're reading is the exact section of what we're dealing with today in the world. Today's shiur will be for Ilui Nishmat Moshe ben Chaim, Sarah bat Beryl, Rachamim ben Agababa, and also for a refuah shlema for Ava bat Hodaya, and Orit bat Ilana, Yitro ben Avraham, Talia bat Sarah, Michal bat Yael, Serach bat Batya bat Sarah, Jonas ben Sherry Haley, Stefan ben Katarina, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, and also for Atzlacha Rabba for Jason ben Moshe and Yitro ben Avraham, Shaul ben Farzane, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, and David ben Esriya, and all of Am Yisrael, especially the ones that help us do all the wonderful things that we've been able to do over this past several years, especially this last year. Baruch Hashem, things continue to get bigger, continue to reach more people. Anyone who missed the opportunity to watch the 20-minute video we published a few days ago, right on, I think it was Friday morning, we published a video. I actually think it's a must-watch for anyone. It's about the campaign that we had during this last month or so to help the poor people in Eretz Yisrael. This one particular video focuses on many of the people from Yavniel, and you see how happy some of these people are, all of these people are really about, getting the miracle that we call food, and it's I think it's truly amazing how much you can do with a little bit of, care. And Baruch Hashem, many people continue to help. We sent about $65,000 or so right before Sukkot, a couple weeks before Sukkot, even without really waiting for anybody to contribute or not, just simply because it was necessary. And Baruch Hashem, it was able to reach many people. And anybody that's contributing now is going to help us try to do this really on a regular basis. Someone asked me if we could do this on a regular basis, and I told them I would love to. I would love to send more and more every month. We send already anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000 a month to Eretz Yisrael, to help different avrachim and so on, but it seems like because of this lockdown that's happening there now, the situation needs more help than that. So whatever we can, we do. And if anybody wants to contribute to it, ashrechem, ashrechem. Either way, I highly recommend watching the video. There's a very nice song, popular song, Israeli song by a religious singer on there that he collaborated with us, and it's an interesting song because the song itself is about just to give. And really when it comes down to it, a person that tries to do tshuva and tries to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more you learn, the more you understand that all of the mitzvot, all of the Torah that you learn, everything that you have is really just for yourself. You learn Torah for your own knowledge, so you know how to get to Gan Eden. You do mitzvot so you can get to Gan Eden. You do maasim tovim, different good things to have a better life, and again to increase your merits. But a person asks, what could I really do for Hashem? What can I do for Hashem? So as we've always told you, and it's known among the Chachamim, that really the only thing that you can do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bring back his kids. The founder of Aish said this famously, is that the only thing that you can do for Hashem is to bring back his children. By helping them do tshuva, by helping them get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether they were born into a secular family or into a religious family, everybody today needs chizuk. Everybody today needs to do tshuva. And anyone that thinks otherwise is simply delirious or just lives under a rock, because the types of students that we have or people that follow our lectures come from all walks of life. Whether they are people that have never heard the word Torah in their life, or they were born into idolatry altogether, or they were born frum. But Baruch Hashem, quite a few students that are very serious about tshuva, changing their lives, and many of them, were pretty sure that their life was right, that their path was right, that where they were going was right, until they woke up when they saw some of the things that Hashem says in the Torah, some of the things that the sages teach us in the Gemara, in the Mishnayot, in the all types of other Sfarim that we quote over the years, and they compare their life to what the book says, and say, I'm nowhere near. So, a person that wants to do tshuva, by definition, tshuva means to return. To return to what? To return to Hashem, which means you weren't there. You may have been close, you may have been far. Either way, you weren't there. So tshuva is to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And chizuk, in essence, is a form of tshuva. It's just a stronger connection to Hashem. So some people need chizuk, some people need to do tshuva altogether, some people need a combination of both. But believe it or not, many people don't really know some of the sins that they're making because they don't even know that they're sins. Because many of the lectures today discuss, good things and nice things, but very rarely do you ever find a lecture that discusses things that perhaps are forbidden, on a day-to-day life. And many times when people watch our shulim, they get surprised with some of the things that we mentioned that are forbidden, even though it's basic level Judaism. We're not teaching any chumrot, any stringencies, or anything that's above and beyond the norm. But we live in such an ignorant generation that even the basics are foreign to us. Even the basics are things that many people don't know, and I'm talking about the religious people. I'm not just talking about the secular people. I'll just give you just an example today. Every day I get, Baruch Hashem, a few hundred messages every day. And although I'm never able to catch up, we try to do our best whenever we can. And every time somebody sends you a message, they automatically, by many of these different platforms, whether it be WhatsApp or the other platforms, they have everybody has a profile picture. And the truth be told is that I would say nicely 8 out of every 10 pictures that women have in their profile is forbidden. 8 out of every 10. Sometimes you just say to yourself, which planet did this person come from? Why would they want everybody to look at this picture? Why would they want everybody to look at this picture? And the reality is that many people don't even realize they have that picture. You come in. Yeah. Okay, come in. Yeah. Many times people don't know that they have these pictures. So every day I get these messages from different people. Yeah, right here, in the front, right here. Wait a second, right. A little bit. Many times people don't know that they have these pictures. They forgot about them. So every so often, I remind people, hey, by the way, you sound like a religious person. You sound like a person that's doing tshuva. You sound like a person that loves Hashem. You sound like a person that wants to do the will of Hashem. Chazaku baruch, chazakau bucha. But if you could do yourself, really me a favor also, change your profile picture. Because you're forbidden, according to the Shulchan Aruch, not Yaron Reuven, according to Shulchan Aruch, you're forbidden from showing your own wife. Forget about girlfriend and anything like that. That's not forbidden, period, to have a girlfriend. You're forbidden from showing your wife affection in public. Forbidden. Affection when you and her are the only one that can see each other. Anyone else sees you, it's forbidden. And you would think, people always tell me, listen, I'm scared to tell my friend this, I'm scared to tell my mom this, I'm scared to tell this one, that one, this. So you would think that people would be offended by this. And surprisingly, I would say more than 9 out of 10 people happily accept this on themselves and change the picture on the spot. Many times they forgot they had the picture. They get so used to things, you forgot you have it. You forgot this picture is from a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, before you did tshuva, when you were still, roaming with the rest of the animals of the world without any clothes on. Forgot about it. No, you forgot to even have this picture. On Facebook, on WhatsApp, on this one, on that one. Forgot. And no one told you. So, many times, people are very grateful. Oh, wow, thank you very much. Thank you for letting me know. I forgot that. Me and my wife. Oh, wow. Can't believe it. And you see, sometimes they change their picture, and you see, wow, this is you today. This is what you used to be. Thank God. Just to see how much you've changed is already is amazing. Many times people are happy about it, and many times people are clueless about it. Where you have sometimes, women, have their wedding picture or a picture of when they were single, after they're married. And the problem is that when you're single, you were allowed to walk around without covering your hair, so long as it's still modest, in a ponytail of some kind. It's no problem. But the second that you're married, those pictures are forbidden for the public. Really, in reality, a woman should never have any of her pictures on the internet. And again, it's just simply not a good idea. It's not a good idea. We'll go over some of that for some of the reasons today, because you have so many sotim, so many people that are, have their minds in the filth at all times. Why would you want any man to think about you? Now, if you do, then you have the problem. You have a problem, we'll go to different shurim for you. But if you realize that you don't want anyone other than your husband thinking about you, why would you have a picture of yourself on the internet like this? For just anybody to Shem Yishmo. Oh, why is it my fault if they think that way? Well, you put the picture up. What do you mean, why is it your fault? You put the picture there. What do you want them to look at? Something else? You put the picture. Truth is that if you put the picture up, there is some type of an interest that you have for people to look at you when you look like that. And many times you see certain types of women putting their pictures on the internet, and they're intentionally provocative. They're intentionally seeking attention. And there's really no one else in the world that I feel bad for more than such a person. Because the amount of sins that such a woman has gathering in her account on a second-by-second basis, just by having that stupid look with her lips puckered, just by having her body arched in a certain way, just by having a certain clothes on, just having that picture that took 3 seconds to make is going to cost them millions of years of suffering. Millions of years of suffering. And the truth is that anyone that understands the deen, the judgment in heaven, is scared to death of even entering a footstep near it. As the Reshit Chochmah says, there was one guy that was tzaddik, but had a little bit of lichluch, had a little bit of dirt. Meaning he had a couple of simple sins. And they said to him in Shamayim, listen, you're fantastic, you're amazing, you're wow. But you have a little bit of dirt on you that you didn't fix, you didn't do tshuva for these few things. So what happens now? So okay, so you have 2 options. Because you're tzaddik, you have 2 options. Most people don't have 2 options. They have 1 option. What's the option? He sends you without an option. But you, since you're tzaddik, you have 2 options. One option is you go to Gehinnom for 3 days. Not the worst type, not the 7th level, no one comes out. No. The lower Gehinnom. The Malachim over here, Amalek and Amalek over here, these giants, they're going to take you over there. 3 days, and you're out, you go to Gan Eden. For how long? Forever. Okay. What's option B? Option B is you get reincarnated. You go back into a body. You live a full life, 70 years. And you have to fix this minor sins during that life. Of course, you have to live a righteous life, keep Shabbat, keep this, keep that. But don't worry, you're not going to have the same test all over again. Since you kept Shabbat during this life, you're not going to have a difficulty keeping Shabbat. Since you learned Torah during this life, you're not going to have a difficulty learning Torah, meaning you're not going to have the same test over again. So you don't have to worry about failing again. But nonetheless, you're still going to have, tests. Tzaddik says, 7 years, a long time. I mean, I can fall. I mean, Yetzirah is strong. I'm just flesh and blood. This guy Yetzirah is malach. No. Let me just go to Gehinnom for 3 days. Okay, no problem. You decided for yourself, no problem. The Malachei Kabbalah, start taking them. Where are you taking me? Taking me to Gehinnom. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's all the way down there. Well, it's far. Yeah, we'll get this one. Don't worry. We have time. There's no time over here. We have time. You start walking. He starts feeling hot. This is what the Reshit Chochmah says. The whole narration of the story. Start walking. He starts feeling hot. He goes, what is this? It's hot here. He goes, oh, no, don't worry. It gets hotter. What do you mean it gets hotter? Where are we going? So we're going to Gehinnom. What do you mean we're going to Gehinnom? But you said this is not Gehinnom? No. This is just, we're walking there. We're walking there. He didn't even get there. He He got so hot just from the entrance. He said, no. He starts crying to Hashem. Hashem, please save me. Please, I'll go back. I know I made a decision and there's really no changing. And he starts crying in Shamayim. Because he was a tzaddik, he said, okay, even though you change your mind, we'll give you another chance. You go back to live a whole full life just to avoid the 3 days in Gehinnom. Now, if that doesn't scare a person into doing tshuva, I don't know what does. But a woman that walks around immodest, or better yet, a woman that just doesn't even walk around immodest. She just puts an immodest picture on our profile, on our WhatsApp, on our whatever. It's not 3 days, I can promise you that. Why? Every single guy looks at you, thinks about you when he's with his wife. HaShem yishmor v'yatzib. HaShem yishmor v'yatzib. One guy, not every guy, one guy finds you attractive, thinks of you at the inappropriate moment. So that's why it's highly recommended for a woman to not have a picture on the internet at all. But if you must have, keep it as limited as possible. Headshot. And definitely not hugging your husband or any grown man. Why? It's not a good idea. Now some women have the idea of, they have a picture with their kids because that's their pride and joy, Baruch Hashem, and it's cute. I don't generally recommend it. My Rabbanit is very much against it because people are crazy today. Why would you want your kids' pictures on the internet? But again, to each their own. There's no clear prohibition against it, but again, like I said, it's not exactly the greatest idea because there's just too many sick people in the world. There's just too many sick people in the world that think and do certain things. This is also the reason why last week, for example, we had the Shiur, in my house, and as I said, I couldn't really invite everybody. There wasn't enough room. But I didn't publicize and will not publicize my home address. Why? Because there's just simply too many sick people. Too many sick people. Quite a few times I had people in my previous houses just knock on my door. Hey, listen, I want to talk to you. What do you mean? It's 11 o'clock at night. Get out of here. Who are you? What do you want from my life? Go away. You want to talk to me? Come to the lecture. No, but I need to talk now. Okay, I need to do a lot of things now. People are crazy. People are insane. So you have to preserve the goods that you have. One time, I tell a woman to, she sends me a message. I tell her, listen, you sound like a very righteous woman. All the questions that you're asking me are questions of tzaddikim, people that are serious about tshuva and everything. And I'm sure you probably forgot that you have this profile picture, but maybe you don't mind changing it. She starts crying. She goes, oh my God, I forgot about it. Oh no. And she, within a matter of seconds, she has a new picture. I said, that's her. The new picture is like someone that just came from Mount Sinai, Tzaddikah. The one that, Shem Yishmo, this one looked like she just, I don't know, a regular secular woman. I just thought, nice person, whatever, you help everybody. Worlds apart. She forgot to have the picture. Countless times this happened to me. Countless times. So if you have a friend, you have a family member, you have somebody, anybody you know that's already in the Torah World, or even if they're not, highly recommend that you take the initiative and tell them to change their profile picture. Why? Because most people don't even realize what damage they're causing themselves with their profile picture. And in today's world, there's just so many different things that are going on. Why do you want to give yourself more problems? You can close the door now since nobody else is coming right here. Why do you want to give yourself more problems? Now, last week we talked about a lot of different subjects. Hopefully all of you watched at least part of the 8-hour shiur. We worked on it, Baruch HaShem, to make sure that it's covers a lot of different topics. It was fantastic questions. And I highly recommend watching it. One person said that at some point when I fell asleep, I continued teaching, and I said that I taught all of the different secrets of having a good marriage while my eyes were closed. So fitting the expression, you taught it with your eyes closed. So maybe one day we'll make a clip out of that one. But this Baruch Hashem, the Torah is endless, and the Siyata Dishmaya that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us is endless. But at the same token, we have to review every single week to see where we're at in this week. What can I tell you? We finished the holidays. Hopefully some of us did tshuva. Surely not all of us did, because the problems continue to persist. Just in the last few days, there's been more horrific news coming out of the Jewish world. You have some idiot by the name of Rabbi Lau. Not the head rabbi, Chas v'Shalom, but of Israel, some other idiot. Not the other one, the other one's Tzaddik. Some idiot named Benjamin Lau. Coming out and decide to do chavruta with Mirvis from London. Why? He's now saying homosexuality is, you just got to accept it. You just got to accept the fact that it's homosexuality, welcome them into your keilah, give them a special section, this, that. It's not such a bad thing. You find out a little bit more in this rat hole that he has. You find out his brother is like this. His brother is a soteh. His brother is homosexual. So this Rabbi Lau decides that, since his own family, he's Nagua, he's biased, why don't we make it friendly for everybody? Everybody should accept homosexuality. Even though Kadosh Baruch Hu says it's an abomination, it's disgusting, it's a desire that you can control, but you choose not to. But no, another so-called rabbi. And of course, anytime a rabbi, especially an Orthodox rabbi, says anything against the Torah, the media covers every single word of it. All of a sudden, the media is interested in what the rabbis have to say. The whole year, the rabbis can talk until they're blue in the face, no one cares. But anytime they say something against the Torah, everybody covers it. So you don't have to look far. Just type Lau, you'll see 500 hits. Homosexuality, Lau, 5,000 hits. Whatever. You'll find it to know. Everybody covered it. Why? It's the breaking news. Like there is nothing else in the world to talk about. Nothing else in the world to talk about other than a so-called Orthodox rabbi telling people that homosexuality is not such a big deal. So you have this filth going on in the world today. Surely this is not it. The Orthodox community is, what can I tell you, is struggling in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that is happening now is we are really putting ourselves in a bad situation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, unintentionally. Usually we don't care, or we don't. Now it's unintentionally. I'll tell you why. For years that we've been doing this, and countless years before I even came into the world, the Chachamim always rebuked Am Yisrael. The Chachamim always rebuked Am Yisrael. The prophets always rebuked Am Yisrael. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, in several different places, 54, 55, 56, and many other places, talks about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished the religious community before he punished the secular community. Now you would think, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings punishment, he should bring the idol worshiper the punishment first. You would think he's bringing the guy that's married to a Goya punishment first. It didn't really work like that throughout history. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The Gemara says the Bet HaMikdash, the destruction began by destroying the religious community. Anyone that hasn't been sleeping under a rock over the last 8 months knows that the religious community has suffered most throughout this coronavirus craziness. Whether it be the number of deaths or simply the persecution against them. So you see that HaShem is specifically targeting, not the Goyim targeting, HaShem is targeting the religious community. He's using the Goyim, but it's HaShem nonetheless. Anyone that thinks that the Goyim or Satan have power outside of HaShem, please let us know so we won't count you in Minyan because you're kofel. Nothing in the world has power outside of HaShem. There is no independent power of HaShem. Only the Christians think that the Satan has an independent power of HaShem, and people ask me once in a while, oh, can you tell us what the Torah says about the fighting between the Satan and HaShem? I said, no, that's probably New Testament. We don't believe in that false testament over there. Torah doesn't have any fighting between Satan and Hashem. Why? Satan is a servant of Hashem. Servant. He does whatever Hashem says. Like a puppy. Now, the Satan is actually one of the most loyal servants of Hashem. One of the most important servants of Hashem. But nonetheless, he's a servant. Anyone that thinks that the Satan is the one that brought the Holocaust, the Satan is the one that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, the Satan decided coronavirus, the Satan decided HIV, AIDS, market crashes, you're wrong. Satan is simply a messenger that Hashem uses to bring His will into the world. Now, why does Hashem will bad things to happen? Torah tells us, half the Torah talks about it. Now, the Chachamim, the Nevi'im, have told us countless times, look how Hashem is punishing the religious community. Look how Hashem is punishing the community. Right now, you see how Hashem is punishing the religious communities. Surely everybody else is also getting hurt, but obviously anyone that is getting perhaps some of the videos that I'm getting, just last week during Chol HaMoed, somebody made a compilation video of the beatings on religious people in Israel just that day by the police. aka Nazis in Israel, are beating the religious people senseless. 7, 8-year-old kids, broken heads, blood all over their face, all over their head, little religious kids. And you say, oh no, maybe he fell. No, then they show you the video of what happened to that kid. How they take some type of barrel or some type of thing and smash it on their head. Or they take another kid and throw him into a wall head first. Or they take a kid after he already fell. A grown man jumps on him and starts punching him in the face. Little kids, all the ones do. Everybody's the same. They're all falling like flies. And the guy at the end of the video says, this is just from today. All these videos just from today. Needless to say, how many are happening every day? Now, anyone that feels safe in America, wake up. Because anti-Semitism has never been higher in the history of America. And as the book I've quoted several times in the last few weeks, very interestingly notes, I mean it's common knowledge, but perhaps not so common anymore, the book Jews for Oil, written by one of the Talmidim or followers that we have, Righteous Noahide, based out of Texas, I believe. You can buy his book in his museum, but I think if you email him, you can buy the book. It's a very interesting book. Now, you're not going to find any warming facts in there. So if you're looking for something to cheer you up, this is not the book. This book talks about how there were nearly 140 ships full of Jews that were trying to escape the Holocaust. And due to the powers that be, and I'm not referring to the Nazis in Germany, but rather the Americans and the British and some other wicked countries, but mainly those two, not only did they not make it to their destination of freedom, but many of them were forced to return back to the Nazis, and many of them were murdered. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is that after the war was over, now we know already that many of the Americans that were at power, including the famous General Patton, Ymach Shemo v'Zichro, were notoriously anti-Semitic. No different than Hitler. Just he wasn't given the ability to do the same thing Hitler did. But when he had the opportunity, he did. And other people in the American army were also very anti-Semitic. Openly, without hiding it. And the reality is that they didn't help the Jews because they didn't really care that the Jews were being killed. It's only when it served their interest to fight the war that they joined the war. It wasn't necessarily for the sake of the Jews. Don't let anybody fool you. Now, did it become a haven that many Jews flee to eventually and then start their whole life? Yes, absolutely. And even for that, we're grateful. But don't think for a second that America was crying any tears for us while we were being murdered by the Nazis. No one was crying, including many of the Jews that lived in America. In fact, much of the reason of why the Jews were being murdered and not saved is because of the lefty liberal Jews that lived in America at the time that were telling the government not to allow them to come. Yes, yes. Jews fighting against Jews. Now, one of the most awful things that perhaps I would say the vast majority of the population does not know, which is also noted in that book, is that the Holocaust did not end at the time the war ended. What we were raised to and were taught in schools, if it's even still taught today, is that when the Holocaust, the war ended, the Holocaust ended. They stopped murdering Jews. Even the documentary videos, like one I recommended to you guys, it's on our playlist, gives the impression that as soon as the war ended, either the Brits or the Americans marched into the concentration camps and hey, hooray, saved us, saving grace, said thank you very much, wow, you're amazing, saved us, right? Stop murdering. It's not exactly how it really worked out in many places. In fact, in some camps, some Nazi camps continued operating for 2 years after the war is done by the Brits and the Americans. Yeah, I know this is like taking your brain just wait, hold on a second, let me just throw this in the garbage. What did you just say again? Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Some of the camps continued operating even past the war. And many of the Jews died after the war was over because of starvation and pretty much very similar, if not identical, reasons to why they were dying during the concentration camps run by the Nazis. In fact, the Jewish people were not exactly welcomed with open arms everywhere after the war, like people think. As you would think when you go to a memorial of the Holocaust. It wasn't exactly that. They were rejected still, starved still, and there was a lot of problems for a while, for several more years. There was a lot of problems for several more years. Many of them were sent to different concentration camps, different jails, treated like animals. Many died. Many were murdered in cold blood. And now you would ask, okay, so at least the Nazis were killed too. No. The war criminals that served in the army of Hitler were not murdered. In fact, with the exceptional ones that were given a death penalty after the trials and so on, the overwhelming majority of those war criminals, of those people that were taken as part of the war as hostages or prisoners, war prisoners, many of them, and I'm talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of them, were given American visas and moved to a nice middle-class lifestyle in America, where some of them still alive today as Americans. Which means that much of the anti-Semitism that you see today is not new anti-Semitism. It's the same Nazis that hated us 70 years ago, and their kids, and their grandkids. The same people that murdered us 70 years ago are still looking for another opportunity. Why? They're here. Now, why haven't they? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not allowing it. It's the only reason. It's the only reason. But the reality is, Rabotai, that many German Nazi war prisoners were given visas, green cards, and so on, and a fantastic living standards, while the Jews were kept in the concentration camps for several more years. Now, this is all information you can look up. Like I said, it's in that book, but it's also in Wikipedia, it's in internet, and in countless other books that perhaps most people don't read. But the point being is that the situation that we have today is that we're making Hashem upset, but for the wrong reason. Meaning, usually you would think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be upset at the religious community. Perhaps maybe they're not religious enough. Perhaps people violating Shabbat. Perhaps too many people wearing a wig from idolatry. Perhaps people are cheating in their business. Perhaps all types of other things, right? Today, in my opinion, I think it's worse. Why? Because other things, there's still a few people thinking that you're sinning. With this, I don't think anybody really thinks that people are sinning. What are they doing? For years, the prophets told us that Hashem punished Am Yisrael at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, as it says in the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, and other places, because they didn't rebuke. They didn't tell Moshe and Aaron and Yossi and David that weren't keeping Shabbat. They weren't telling them, keep Shabbat, or Hashem's going to kill you. They weren't telling them that. They didn't tell them that. They were busy living their frum life. So the Gemara says, since you didn't tell them, you're a big reason of why they didn't do tshuva. Now, that's always been the case. What changed? The rebuke in the world today, especially the English-speaking world, has been virtually non-existent for decades already. You see there's a few stars here and there, the Rav Avigdor Millers here, that have been here and there to at least give some mercy to the whole generation. The Rav Mizrachis that bring some mercy from Shamayim, because at least there's one person that's rebuking in English, Baruch Hashem, and even in Hebrew there's those issues, but not as much. So here and there you're going to see some star telling people do tshuva, stop sinning. But generally speaking, the type of communications that the speakers, the shepherds, if you will, have communicated to their keilot over the last couple of decades, if not more, has been virtually friendly, user-friendly, Satan-friendly, everything friendly except Hashem friendly. Why? Because you see how the religiosity has deteriorated, not just in the secular world, but also in the religious world. The religious people of today, no one can say that it's the same level as the religious people of their parents or their grandparents. Like, no frum person today can say, I'm as religious as my grandfather. No chance in the world. Why? It's just not a reality. Which means that whatever system of communicating with the public that's being used over the last few decades is not working really well. for HaShem. Perhaps the Satan it's working, but not for HaShem. Why? Hasn't been any real rebuke by the vast majority of speakers, as we've talked about a million times. So why is this a problem again? That in itself is not a problem again. It's the same recurring problem. It's like having termites in your house. Unless you have some special people with special equipment and special chemicals, it's not going away. And even after that, you probably have to do it a few times. So what's the new thing? The new thing is that every time you come to a rabbi, and I've tried it a few times, and you tell him, listen, you have a kehillah, 50, 100, 200, 300 people. Why don't you tell the people to do tshuva? Why don't you tell people to keep Shabbat? Why don't you tell people to be honest in their business? Why is it always fluffy-duffy? Like, no yalla. You know some of them are not exactly Moshe Rabbeinu. You know some of them are criminals. You know a few people drove to Shabbat, a few more than normal. Tell them something. Oh, no, I don't want to turn them off. I don't want people to be offended. I want to make sure, we're here, we love everybody, we can agree with everyone, even if we disagree. You have better luck convincing a Christian to become a Jew, rabbi, than convincing a Jewish rabbi to act like a Jewish rabbi today. Unless they themselves have it in their blood. And Baruch Hashem, there's a few, but not enough. How do I know? Look at the situation in the world. So what's changed? What's the point of everything I'm saying? Suddenly, in the last several weeks, needless to say in the last few years, but more so in the last few weeks, rabbis have decided to take a stand and go public with their opinions. Go public with their harsh opinions. Go public with their opinions that are so strong, it's politically incorrect. Go public with their opinions that are so strong that some people are even offended by them. But they don't care, and they even say it on the videos, one after another. I don't care what anybody's going to say. This is the truth. What are they saying, though? Political opinions. Either supporting Trump, or going against Cuomo, or going against some other politician. Everybody's political opinions are now becoming public knowledge, and now they're having these protests in New York and in different places, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not really sure if it's wrong or right to have a protest because of the horrible situation that's happening in the world today, and they're pretty much destroying businesses, they're destroying societies, they're destroying the Jewish community, they're targeting the Jewish community. I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong to have the protest and to fight back, but what is wrong is how come you didn't do it for the Torah? How come you didn't go protest when everyone was making gay pride parades in Yerushalayim? How come you didn't have any protests when they were having gay pride parades in Jewish neighborhoods in New York? How come you didn't have any protests when people were driving on Shabbat in your community to your synagogue? How come you didn't have any protests and strong videos going against all of the heretics of the world? Some of which call themselves Jewish. Some of them are even rabbis. How come you were so quiet back then? How come now, finally, when it comes to your political opinion, all of a sudden you need to start a YouTube channel? All of a sudden you need to make sure that this gets out there and it gets 1 million hits. And every little squeak that you do, you make sure somebody's videotaping it from every angle, because the burning of the masks, you got at least 8 or 9 different angles. Everybody saw, no, from this angle, it looks like 1,000 masks. From that angle, no, that's 1,500. From that angle, it's 15,000. Make sure we publish all of them. Make sure that we tell everybody that we don't like the governor, we don't like the mayor, we don't like this, we don't like that. How come you weren't vocal for the Torah? How come you didn't fight for HaKadosh Baruch Hu like that? What's the source that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is upset about this? The Torah Kedusha has everything in it. Everything in it, Rabotai Kerim, everything in it. And we see that in Sefer Shoftim, chapter 19, verse 30. A Pilegesh runs away from a husband who was a psychopath, jealous, sociopath. She runs away from him. And the Benjamin tribe catches her and rapes her, tortures her, and does things that maybe in Gehinnom they do the same thing. Other places, normal places, don't do such things. As a result of it, she eventually comes back home, dies at the door. The crazy husband has an even bigger reason to be crazy, a bigger reason to be angry, and he cuts her up into pieces and sends a piece to every one of the other tribes. Says, look what they did to my wife. All of us have to unite, go to war with the Benjamin tribe, destroy them, the Reshaim. Okay. Am Yisrael says, yeah, such crime against other Jews is unforgivable. We have to go to war with them. These are wicked people. They go to the Kohen. Kohen goes to the Urim and Tumim. Ask Hashem. Hashem says, you're going to win the war. They go to war and they start losing. Tens of thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people on their side in a war that should have taken 10 minutes. Tens of thousands of people are killed in this war, and it doesn't make sense to anybody. Why? Their army is over 400,000. The Benjamin tribe's army is 20-something thousand. It's not a war. It's a fist fight. It shouldn't be. If you spit, you should drown all of them. But they're killing you, one day after another. Eventually, they win the war. But only after they lost tens of thousands of people. Chachamim ask, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu already told them, go to war, you're going to win the war, why don't you just make them win it right away? Why do a bunch of people have to die as a result? Obviously, they're the righteous, this is the wicked. What's the problem? What's the problem here? Why did a bunch of people have to die? It doesn't even make any sense. He was making miracles for the wicked. For what? If he was going to let the wicked win the ultimate war anyway, okay, then you understand. From beginning to end, they won because Hashem wanted them to win. But it didn't work out that way. It's just that they had miracles for a few days, but then they lost anyway. Less than 1,000 of them were left. What's the point? Rashi HaKadosh, we cannot go to a single verse in the Torah, a single verse in the Gemara without seeing Rashi. If you don't know Rashi's opinion on anything, you don't know anything. No, but I know somebody else. Until you know Rashi, you don't know anything else. Right? That's the standard accepted among all of Klal Yisrael. Rashi says, they were punished. They were punished. Even though they got what they wanted in the end, they won the war, they were punished in the beginning of the war. Why were they punished? Because a few chapters before this, in chapter 17, there was a whole section about how part of Am Yisrael became idolaters. And they did not fight against that. They didn't protest against that. They didn't do much about it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, I don't understand. When one guy's woman gets violated, all of you unite, you fight. But when my honor gets violated, when an entire section of people are heretics, are idol worshippers, you don't see a thing? Doesn't bother you that people are worshiping idols? It doesn't bother you that people are driving on Shabbat? It doesn't bother you that people are unethical in their business and everybody knows it? It doesn't bother you that people are liars, cheaters, and criminals? It doesn't bother you at all that people are making crimes against Hashem? That doesn't bother you? But one guy's wife got violated, oh, you're all together, 400,000 people go to war. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, how come you're not zealous for me? How come? It's the mistake I think we see today. Not the Chas v'Shalom bringing kitrug on Am Yisrael. We already have enough against us. Nothing that I can do about that. But at least maybe if there's a rabbi out there, or anyone that's zealous, or anyone that simply wants to help Klal Yisrael, maybe show this to their rabbi. And ask him, okay, you want to be vocal about your political opinions? You want to be vocal about what's going on with Corona? You want to be vocal about all these different things? Fine, no problem. Do what you got to do. You have your own dat Torah of what you need to do for your community, for your kehillah. No problem. Do what you got to do. You talk to the mayor, you talk to his friend, you talk to whatever. Do what you got to do. No problem. But can you, at the very least, show at least as much zealousness for HaKadosh Baruch Hu when your kehillah drives to shul on Shabbat? When half of your kehillah doesn't even own a sukkah? Because they're relying on the Bet Knesset. They all live in $1 million houses, but they're relying on the sukkah from the Bet Knesset. Half your kehillah has tefillin from their bar mitzvah days because they're too cheap to buy a new one. Half your kehillah has businesses that are forbidden for anybody to do, but they're doing it lechatchila like it's no problem. Rabbi, is it okay if I'm not exactly in a cash advance business, but it is a lending company, it is charging an obnoxious amount of interest, but we don't call it cash advance? Is that okay, Rabbi? So many of us have, Baruch Hashem, a gift to speak. But if it doesn't serve our interest, Vaido ma'aron, quiet, nothing, doesn't say nothing. Rabbi, what's the shiur this week? Oh, we're going to talk about the parasha. Oh, we're going to talk about the parasha. We're going to talk about the ma'ala of Moshe Rabbeinu and how great he was. Okay, shtabach shemo, Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe Rabbeinu, as it says in this week's parasha. Velo kam nevi od b'Yisrael ke Moshe, chazak u'baruch. But if that's the whole shiur, don't give it. Why? It's not going to help anybody do tshuva. It's not going to make the criminal that's stealing from people give back the money. It's not going to make the putzah put some clothes on. It's not going to make all the mechalei Shabbat start keeping Shabbat. It's not going to make it. I'm sorry, it's not. You got to give them some practical advice. What am I going to do today? Now don't say anymore, no, we don't want to offend anyone. We like everyone. No, you can't say that no more. Why? You were on the news 3 days ago cheering and yelling, oh, Cuomo's a murderer, and this one and that one is a killer, and they're anti-Semitic. Hey, well, okay, so you weren't bothered with offending people that like him or vote for him? How come? How come? You can't use that excuse anymore. You can't go out and protest for your interest, but not for Hashem's interest, and think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to sit there quietly and not be upset. And on this, Rabotai Karim, the Pasuk says, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse number 35. Ineni nishpat otach al imrech lo chatati. Behold, I am entering into judgment with you because of your saying, I have not sinned. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Klal Yisrael, it's not enough that you already sinned against me by not getting people to do tshuva and caring less about it because your kids were going to yeshiva, you didn't care that his kids were going to public school. It's not enough that your wife was walking around like she forgot our clothes in the last generation. It's not enough that you were eating safek kasher. Safek. Why safek? Because no one really knows if it's really kosher or not, but it kind of looks kosher because it's gefilte fish, but you're not really sure where the fish is from. It's not enough that you made all these sins. It's not enough. But on top of it, you said I didn't do nothing. Why is Hashem bringing me corona? Why is Hashem causing all this anti-Semitism? Why is Hashem doing this to us? It's not enough you sin. On top of it, you're pretending like you didn't sin. On top of it, you're pretending like you didn't have a bunch of cash advance businesses that were given the psak by Reshaim rabbis that it's okay to do it. No, all our customers are goyim. That's why we're allowed to charge 50% interest. Who said? Who said? Show me one chacham in the history of mankind that says the 50% interest is allowed. One chacham. To anybody, goyim, to Nazis even. The Nazis, you're not allowed to charge 50% interest. You think this is not going to be a bad thing? All this immoral business? But they have the psak of the community rabbi. No, the rabbi said it's okay. It's okay. What do you mean it's okay? No, we have this and that. You don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand. Entire communities are being built with non-kosher money. And people think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not watching. And on top of it, he sends us the rebuke specifically and intentionally and precisely to the religious community. And everyone pretends, no, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. If you think it's everywhere, you're blind and stupid. You think it's everywhere. Every day on the news, since the beginning of this virus, the Orthodox community has been on it. If the Orthodox community didn't report anything for that day, they just tell you what we did yesterday. Every day on the news, the Orthodox community is on the news. You're never going to see the Lutheran, Christian, Catholic community on the news. Oh, the Lutherans all of a sudden have decided to not put masks on. Never. The Protestants, they decided to heck with masks. Never. Seventh-day Adventists and Power Rangers decided. Never. Never going to see any of that. No one's ever going to see the Christians and the Catholics and the Arabs and the Buddhists. You're never going to see them on the news. Even though you calculate the percentages, where we are, where they are as far as population, can't compare. We're not even a rounding error. We're not even a rounding error. We should never be in the news, period. Every day we're on the news. But not just, this guy who happens to be Israeli, he happened to not wear a mask and he got arrested. No, not happened. No. Look at this guy, visibly Jewish, strimel to the sky, beard to the floor. We can tell he's Jewish from 1.5 miles away. Look at his little cute kids walking around with him. Nobody's wearing a mask. Yeah, but what about the Christian, the Lutheran, and the African American, and the Spanish guy, and the guy from Puerto Rico, and this one, all those other guys? No, nothing. Nothing. Nobody mentions them on the news. Orthodox Jew on the news every single day for the last 6-8 months straight. I mean, they say all news is good news, but I don't think for this one. I don't think they imply for this one. Being covered by the media has never been such a horrible thing. But every day we're on the news, and now even more so. Now we're electing to be on the news. That's the worst part. They were picking on us in the beginning because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was doing what he was doing. Now we're electing to be on the news. Why? Some of these stupid people are calling the media. No, come to our ballpark. Come to our neighborhood here. Come to our neighborhood. We're having a protest against Pataki and Cuomo and Giuliani and whoever else is in office. I don't even think any of these people are, except Cuomo. I don't follow this. But I can tell you, we're having a protest against all of these government members. They're inviting the media to their communities. Instead of digging a hole in the ground so deep people forget about us, we're bringing the attention to the world. Now again, is it wrong to protest for all the things that were going on? It's hard to say it's wrong. Hard to say it's wrong. Is it right? Absolutely not, though. Hard to say it's wrong, but it's definitely not right. Why? If you protested for the Torah a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, and every single day, protest as much as you want. For your politicians, and for against the politicians, and against the whatever you want. You protest for Kadosh Baruch Hu, protest against anything. But you claim to be a mute your whole career. But now all of a sudden you're vocal. Now all of a sudden you're a lead singer on the news on Channel 5. It's a problem. Why? Kadosh Baruch Hu gave you that talent. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave you that mouth to speak His words. And the worst part about it is that people say, no, we didn't do nothing. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it's bad enough you did what you did. On top of it, you're saying you didn't do nothing. On top of it, you're saying you didn't do nothing. You're innocent. Now, all of this connects to our shiur. Why? Because all of the chokhmot are in the Torah, Baruch HaShem. Rav Wasserman HaKadosh last week told us that you don't have to pay a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or anybody for advice. You can just go to HaShem. Yesterday I got a call from a guy who was having a serious, difficult time, and tried to give him some guidance the best that I could. And at the end he sends me, listen, if you know any mekubal that I could talk to, let me know. Somebody that's mekubal, if it's a real mekubal, it's somebody that took on himself above and beyond halakha to become pure, to very holy, very righteous, and so on. And people like to talk to mekubalim. Problem is that most people say they're mekubalim, they're not even close to it, but that's a different point. But he says, I want to talk to a mekubal. Why? Maybe he can give me guidance. Like, whatever you gave me, it's good, but maybe the mekubal can give me like a little string or something, and all my problems go away. And if that was a one-time case, I'd say, you know what? Okay, whatever, the guy is desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures. But truth is that in 24 hours, it was the second guy. In a week, multiply that by several more. Every day somebody asks me for some mekubal's number. If I have a mekubal's number, can you give me that number so I can talk to the mekubal? So you can fix my problems? Rav Wasserman HaKadosh says in the name of the Chafetz Chaim, you don't need to speak to a mekubal. You don't need to speak to even Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was available for you to speak to. You don't need to. Why? You could speak to Hashem for free, whenever you want. If somebody told you on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. at such and such address, Rabbi Ovadia will come back from Gan Eden and sit here and give brachot to whoever you want. The line will be from here all the way to Israel. Every Jew and non-Jew will come here and sit, wait for Rabbi Ovadia's bracha. If someone told you on Wednesday, you don't have to look anywhere else, Eliyahu Navi is coming to such and such address, and he's going to give everybody advice. However high or low, tall or short, rich or poor, everything is free, everyone welcome. The line will be from here until Mars, waiting for bracha from Eliyahu Navi. The Chafetz Chaim says, look how stupid we are. We would go through thick and thin. We would go buy a $5,000 plane ticket just to make it on time. We would hire a driver that knows the way and practices a few times just to make sure he knows all the traffic routes, to make sure we're first in line. We're going to pay off a few people to get us to skip the line. We're going to make sure we get a special outfit just to make sure that we look fresh. And on top of it, we're going to do all types of things to make sure that we remember this moment. So we're going to hire a cameraman that's going to visualize it and memorialize it and hang it on my wall and put it on my screen and all types of things. What? I got a bracha from Rabbi Ovadia. I got a bracha from Eliyahu Navi. Chafetz Chaim says, you can get a bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can get HaKadosh Baruch Hu to talk to you. You can get HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give you everything you want. When you wake up in the morning, say Modeh Ani, already start the conversation. Say Shachrit, Ishtabach Shema, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is over there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right next to you. He's right next to you. You said Shachrit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. Yeah, but how could he be there if he's already there? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you mean? What do you think, he's limited to be in one place? What are you, Christian? Think about this, he's a physical form. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. In your little mincha, in your little shachrit. The one that's on time and the one that's late. He's over there. If he's not there, why are you praying? Who are you praying to? The wall? Well, the wall's not can't do nothing for you. Pray to the wall as much as you want, won't do nothing. Nothing. Won't even say nothing. Won't even change colors. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not there, why are you praying? Which means that by default, you have to believe. If you're going to go pray, you have to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is at your Bet Knesset, or in your house that you're praying. Wherever you're praying today, that's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. You're learning Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sitting right next to you. You're right. No. Go to the other page. That's where it is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right next to you. If you don't believe that, why are you praying? Why are you learning? For what? For who? Why are you looking for Mikubal? You have a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam. And that's the problem. We forget that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is next to us. Hence the reason of why the sins are getting bigger and bigger and more blatant in today's world, because people think that a Kadosh Baruch Hu only shows up maybe on Yom Kippur, or maybe a Kadosh Baruch Hu shows up maybe he's only at the Bet Knesset, or maybe a Kadosh Baruch Hu is only, maybe in the books, but he's not in my day-to-day life. And that's one of the fundamental reasons of why the philosophical-minded, the ones that follow the teachings of the Aristotle and Plato and all of these other philosophers or people that pretend to be philosophers today, why no matter what they do, they will always go back to their heresy, which is foreign to Judaism, even if they're Jewish and they have a kippah on. But people that don't know the difference between what's right and wrong and what's allowed and what's not allowed will constantly think that he must be right because he has a lot of views. He must be right because he sounds good. He speaks well. He speaks really fast. Maybe he's Mashiach. And the reality is that one word that comes out of a person's mouth not only removes him from the possibility of being Mashiach, but also removes him from the possibility of having an Olam Haba. One word. Which word? Anything that's contrary to the Torah. You publicize that opinion, you just lost your Olam Haba, and now you have to work on getting it back. Now, Rav Wasserman says it's important to know that apart from the precepts and prohibitions which are written in the Torah, wise counsels are recorded there also. Counsels which have been well tried. And just as the Torah is everlasting, so are its counsels everlasting. Meaning, the Torah is not just a rule book that's going to tell you allowed, not allowed, allowed, not allowed, eat this, but don't eat that. It's not just that. In fact, it has everything. All 7 types of knowledge that exist in the world are inside the Torah. All knowledge is in the Torah. Anything that's of any value is inside the Torah. Not just the rules that directly correlate to the 10 Commandments, the 613 Mitzvot. No. There's much other things in there. And if a person delves into the Torah, as the Mishnah in Avot says, afoch ba ve'afoch ba dekula ba. Delve into it and delve into it, everything is in it. And what everything, we literally mean everything. Your name is in the Torah. Your life and every single thing you ever did in your life is in the Torah. Where is it? You need to know how to find it, but nonetheless, it's in the Torah. Now, this also includes day-to-day advice of how to deal with the current situation, as this section is appropriately called the Medinut HaGalut Shel Avotenu, the Galut policy of our forefathers. And after telling us, in the name of the Chafetz Chaim, that when a time comes and a person doesn't know how to make decisions, He doesn't have to lose their mind. He should just simply go to the Torah, go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you'll know what to do. Now Rav Wasserman tells us something that doesn't really seem like it's so relevant to Mashiach. He's telling us, by the way, the Torah has everything in it, including good advice for day to day. But he emphasizes that it's not just good advice for day to day, it's eternal advice. Meaning that if it was already written in the Torah, written Torah 3,330 years ago, or the oral Torah over the last couple thousand years in different sections, if it's there, it's relevant to today. The fact that you don't know how, because it doesn't seem relevant, is a lacking on you, not on the Torah. Now some people are going to say, yeah, but the Torah has some information that's scientific, that is not correct. Like, for example, somebody asked me a question a few days ago. The Gemara says that a snake takes 7 years to give birth. And science proves otherwise. Modern science proves otherwise. So there's a mistake. No, who says it's a mistake? First of all, everybody knows that there's different species of snakes. The Gemara wasn't talking about every single snake. Could be a specific species they're talking about. Second, the world itself has changed, as science constantly mentions. It did change to a certain extent. There are certain species that are no longer here, even if they were here 5-10 years ago. Needless to say, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,500 years ago. So what they were talking about could very well be something that existed back then and doesn't exist now. Like there are many animals that are mentioned in the Torah that are no longer in the world today. Whether it be the re'em that's mentioned in this week's Parashat Zot HaBracha, which is a huge animal that looks like a bull and a deer, but just giant like a dinosaur. Or it be the Tachash, which was a beautiful animal that they used the skin for the Bet HaMikdash, the Mishkan. Different animals that existed back then don't exist now. So it could be that the Gemara is talking about an animal that existed back then, a snake that existed back then. Or better yet, the nature of animals has changed. As we all know, our nature has changed. People are very different today than their grandparents were, needless to say, than their great-grandparents were. Look at the people today, for example. You don't need to look further than the athletic world. It's the most apparent way to see the change in people. Look how big the athletes are today, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, or any other sport out there, versus 100 years ago. Not even that far ago, 50 years ago. They look like giants next to them. The people that used to play football when the NFL first started look like average regular people today. The people that play football today, they look like Goliath. Each one of them is like Shimon Achem, is like you, it's like 3 people. It's like, what do you eat, people? How did you get so big? But it's the average guy. People changed. Animals have changed. So, when people find something that doesn't jive in their mind, they automatically assume the worst, assume the Torah is not relevant. Mistake. Furthermore, they figure that the advice that's in the Torah is perhaps relevant to the generation that it was written for. There's no bigger mistake than that. Because the Gemara in Masechet Megillah says 55 prophets are mentioned in the Tanakh. 48 males, 7 females. Even though Am Yisrael alone had at least 1.2 million prophets throughout the years. So the sages ask, if there were over 1 million prophets for Am Yisrael, how come we only know about 55 of them? And the Gemara answers, we only know the messages from the 55 because they were the only ones that their message was eternal, was for every generation. While the others, the other 1.2 million, their message was only relevant to their generation. Needless to say, every single verse mentioned in the Tanakh is relevant to today, is relevant to you, is relevant to your situation today. Any situation you have, you can find a way to make every verse relevant to it. The fact that you couldn't figure it out just means there's a lacking in your learning of Torah and your understanding of Torah. And that's what Rav Wasserman is trying to tell us. He says that Torah is not just the prohibitions, but rather has wise counsel that is everlasting. And then he gives us a couple of instances, a couple of examples. For instance, a man should always divide his wealth into 3 parts and invest 1/3 in land, 1/3 in goods, meaning his business, and leave 1/3 in cash. That's what the Gemara says. For if one of his enterprises fail, then the remainder will be saved. This is a well tried out piece of advice. Whoever does not act according to this rule does not thereby disobey a commandment. He merely has declined good advice. So Torah tells us, how do you deal with the current problems that we have today? Everybody is, the more news you watch, the crazier you are. Because that's what happens as a result of watching the news. So people are going a little cuckoo right now, and some are saying, oh, it's time to leave. America is the worst. We got to go to Israel. Okay, but you realize in Israel, in some places, it's actually much worse, right? No, but at least it's Jewish people over there. Yeah, exactly. Those Jews are going to beat you up also, especially if you're religious. Exactly. Because you're religious, they're going to beat you up. Oh, so where should we go? England? Oh, no, over there it's not exactly peaches either. Where should we go? Italy? Oh, not peaches there. Where should we go? Listen to the advice. The exile policy, it doesn't tell us to just get up and run away at this stage. But many people are. Many people are saying it's time to make aliyah, it's time to run away because situation is terrible. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making it pretty clear it's terrible everywhere. It's not terrible because of the Americans. It's not terrible because of the British. It's not terrible because of the Germans. It's not terrible because of the black people or the Mexican people or the Spanish people. It's not terrible because of that. It's terrible because of us. We did something to make HaShem bring terrible here. Now you're going to say, wait a minute. You're saying that because Am Yisrael is not exactly doing everything that they're supposed to, that Hashem is bringing tragedy to the whole world? That's not what I'm saying. That's what the Gemara is saying. Me? Who cares what I say? I don't even care what I say. But the Gemara, that's what it says. Gemara, Masechet Yevamot, page 63a. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Avina. Rabbi Elazar ben Avina said, En pur'anut ba'a la'olam ela bishvil Yisrael. Misfortune comes to the world only on the account of Israel. As it says in Tzefania chapter 3 verse 6, Echrati goyim nashamu pinotam echrafti chotzotam. God says, I have eliminated nations. Their towers have become desolate. I've destroyed their streets. Their cities have become ruins. And it's written in the next verse, I said in wrecking this destruction, just fear me, O Israel. Extract a lesson. So the Gemara here says that God is bringing dramatic punishment upon the nations, so that Am Yisrael, who are witnesses to this, will become fearful of HaShem, because they could be punished as well, and do tshuva. That's the whole goal. Stop asking, why is Hashem bringing coronavirus? Stop asking, why is the economy about to crash or crashing or whatever it is? Why? Don't ask why. Ask, what can I do about it? What you can do is do tshuva. Whatever you're not doing the Torah and the Torah, start doing it. When? Yesterday. Yeah, but I'm already religious. Apparently not enough. How do you know not enough? Because if you were religious enough, you could actually bring enough good to the rest of the nation. That's how good you could be. One person could be holy enough to bring merit to the entire nation. We've seen it countless times in the Torah. Meaning that nobody, even the biggest rabbis in the world, the most righteous, even themselves, they know. They could do more. Everybody could do more. Needless to say, myself, Hashem Yishmor. Everybody could do more. Everybody needs to do more. Because what's happening, Rabotai, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing wrath to the world because Am Yisrael needs to do tshuva. Now, many people are focused on what am I going to do with my money? Because in Germany, they took everything we had. So never again. Right? We say never again. So everybody's trying to prepare. So people are asking, instead of asking me, Rabbi, where can I get a good book about Halachot Shabbat? Where can I get a good book about Musar? What lecture are you doing this week? How much can I donate to sponsor the next event? No, instead of those questions, you know what I get all day? Rabbi, since the stock market is probably going to crash, what should I invest in? Since you mentioned in the Shiur, in the 8-hour Shiur, that gold is just a, figment of our imagination that has any value, since that's not going to be good, where should I invest in? Like, instead of, how could I get all of the money that I have invested and fix my olam haba, people are trying to fix their olam hazeh. Where could I put my nest egg to keep it nesting? To keep it growing, more chickens, more cars, more houses, bigger retirement plan, a bigger will that's going to benefit a bunch of strangers you care less about. Because that's usually what ends up happening. Everybody works their whole life, they build a big nest egg, thinking that, this is going to go to my kids. And then eventually, by the time it goes to their kids, also 500 other people also had their hand in it. And, the people that you want to have their hand in it don't get anything. So you worked your whole life for everybody else to benefit, especially your enemies. And that's what happens to people. Why? You're supposed to plan ahead with tzedakah. How do you plan ahead with tzedakah? Give it during your life, not after you're dead. Not after you're dead. Don't wait till you die to give tzedakah. Give it while you're alive. Right now is an opportunity for Am Yisrael to start thinking clearly. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making the situation clear. It doesn't look good. You're worrying about your 401k. You're worrying about your stock portfolio. You're worrying about your real estate portfolio. You're worrying about all of these different things, and you're not worrying about if you're doing the right thing. As far as halacha. Needless to say, the Torah has advice for everybody, including their money. And it says here clearly, as Rav Wasserman says, you don't have to start offshore accounts to hide the money. You don't have to think, you know what, maybe if I just buy a bunch of precious metals and I'll be okay. You don't have to do something strange like, I'm going to put all my money in water because people are going to need water, right? I'm going to buy land. I'm just going to buy land. I'm going to own a country because people are going to need to live somewhere. No, I'm going to buy bunkers because people are going to need to go somewhere. Don't do stupid things. Torah tells you clearly. You have money? Good. First and foremost, make sure you give the tzedakah that you're supposed to give, meaning at least maaser. If you want protection for the money. But furthermore, if you've made money over the years that you haven't given maaser to, you haven't given maaser, and like let's say for example, you started giving maaser now. You worked your whole life, you got yourself $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever you have as a nest egg, $100,000, whatever it is. And you started giving maaser recently. Last 2-3 years, you have a paycheck, you get your $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year, or more, whatever it is, but you give maaser, you're giving good stock, it's good. But you didn't give maaser on a $2 million. Don't think that the maaser of today's money is going to protect the money that you made. Like if you have a nest egg of $1 million that you didn't give maaser on, don't think that the maaser of today's income is going to protect that money too. It doesn't work that way. Insurance policy only goes on the insured product. You can't go to the insurance company and say, listen, the house went on fire. Okay, all right, show us the policy. Yeah, I bought the policy right here. Okay, so you have a policy. Great. Okay, so what's the address of the house? It's such address. Well, the policy is for a different house. You have two houses. This house, if it went on fire, we pay for it. The other house, you didn't buy an insurance policy for it. Yeah, but I have insurance. Yeah, you do have insurance. But it's a different house, though. You can't use the insurance policy for this house for a different house. It doesn't work that way. So make sure that, again, financial protection doesn't come for free. That's number one. Two, make sure your money is going to the right place. Why? Because there are a bunch of reshaim out there that have fraudulent campaigns. As I've told you guys many times. Just today, this one Rasha, persistent Rasha. Some Rashaim are persistent. There's one Rasha named Ari. This guy is a special type of Rasha. He's a Rasha to your face, though. I actually appreciate that. I appreciate that he tells everybody he's a Rasha. He has a campaign that keeps getting shut down because he's a Rasha, and the companies really realize that he's a criminal. And he has a campaign raising money, specifically raising money to get people to go against me and Rav Mizrahi. He says, all of the people they help do tshuva, those people have kids. Let's make sure those kids don't study with Rabbi Yaron and Rabbi Mizrahi. Let's get them to go study at yeshiva, different ones, not with them. This is his whole campaign. It's the most mind-boggling thing in the world. And he keeps having a campaign. And guess what? Some people actually donate money to him. Now, the saddest part is there's a decent-sized Jewish organization that's extremely well known, that not only knows about what he's doing, but works with him, supports him, helps him, and encourages him to continue doing it. Publicly, going against people that are helping Am Yisrael do tshuva, and they're tell them Chazaku Baruch. I've mentioned their name in the past. I'm reserved of whether I should mention it again because I don't think it's going to serve any good. But the point being is that everyone thinks that this organization is righteous. Everyone thinks that this organization is good people. And the truth is, they're Reshaim Geburim, worse than him. But anyway, this criminal is a tiny, small criminal in comparison to other people that raise real money just to pad their pockets, line their pockets, build more houses. How many people do you know from big Jewish organizations? They get money like it's salt. Build $30, $40 million buildings, but there's not even a minyan. Not even 10 Jews. Right over here, around the corner, there's 15 minutes away from here. There's one guy, he has 2 buildings next to each other. Each one is worth at least $30 million. If there's 10 Jewish people between the 2 buildings, I'd be surprised. But he keeps raising more and more money. A lot of buildings are being built, but not a lot of mitzvot. Why? Like I said, there's a lot of donor fraud, there's a lot of wicked people. So a person needs to know that they need to donate money, but they need to do some investigation of where they donate. If you donate your money to a wicked person, it's on you. It's on you. Don't say, oh no, I didn't know. It's your fault you didn't know. Because if you're buying a house, you'd know where the neighborhood is. If you're buying a car, you'd know what kind of different features it has. If you're buying a business, you'd know how many employees it has. Don't say, oh, I didn't know that I'm donating $10,000 to a wicked organization. No, no, no. If you're donating to a wicked rabbi, a wicked organization, all of the sins are on you. Why? You supported it. You paid for it. You paid for it. People think, no, no, but I didn't know. I didn't know it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But with the rest of the money that a person has, he doesn't need to worry about hiding it and doing all types of weird things. Gemara tells us, very simple. And Rav Wasserman quotes it here. Third of the money should go into land, meaning some type of real estate, some type of real asset. It can be stocks, it can be real estate, buildings, it can be land itself, anything that's a long-term investment that could potentially yield some income or have capital gains. Point being is anything of value. Now, day trading is not real value. If you're day trading $1 million in the stock market, that's not considered like you're investing into stocks. It's not considered a stock investment. It's considered speculation. I was on Wall Street for almost 20 years. Don't tell me it's not speculation. I know what speculation is. You can think that you know everything and you're an expert and you're all this and you're all that. Great, fine, congratulations. You're still wrong. With all that you know and it's speculation. That's what it is. Day trading. Now, if you have 1,000 shares of some big company, a blue chip, or any company that's of value that you want to own for the next few years because you care about the business, you care about their growth and so on, okay, that's an investment. Doesn't necessarily need to be a big company. It could just be a mid-sized company, small company even. But if you want it as a long-term investment, that's an investment. You could have that. You could have a piece of real estate, a house, commercial property, piece of land in, Tennessee somewhere. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Point is, you could do it. You want to buy a second house in Israel? Chazak Kabul, go ahead and do it. That's an investment. That's what you could have a third of your money in. That's part of your person's portfolio. Second third is to have in goods, meaning your business. You have a business, you have a laundromat, you have a toy store, you have a drugstore, hopefully legal ones, you have a whatever you have, third of your money in your business. Third of the money in your business. And a third of the money, cash. Why cash? Well, first he says, the Gemara explains, you should have these three different types of investments. It doesn't literally mean three things. It doesn't literally mean, like I know sometimes I have to explain myself better. It doesn't literally mean have a house, have your laundromat, and have $500 in the bank account and you're diversified. That's not what it means. Like, it depends on the amount of assets that you have. Like, the more you have, the more each one of these topics will have as moving pieces. The less you have, the less moving pieces you have. So, but the point being is, a third of the money of a person needs to be liquid, cash. Why cash? One reason is for investment purposes. The market eventually will crash, not just today, throughout all of history. On the average, every 7 to 10 years, the market crashes. Who makes the most amount of money during market crashes? The guys that have cash before the market crashed. Why? Because they end up buying everything everybody else is selling. But only after people are selling it for throw-up prices. You know what throw-up prices are? You guys ever hear the term throw-up prices? This is a unique term I invented just now. No, but man, you guys know what throw-up prices are? You guys don't know what throw-up prices are. A long time ago, I was in the market, I was in the business. And this was my first experience with a crash that I was in the business in. I saw a crash when I was a teenager, but I wasn't really involved in the business. This time, I was in the business. I was still relatively new, relatively small in the business, but still, nonetheless, seeing the news, the wires, people going crazy, people losing their shirts, and so on. And I went to this guy, this Greek guy, friend of mine, this guy Manny. And he was a veteran in the business. And I told him, listen, I just got an order from a client of mine. He wants to invest, but I don't know this, that. When should I buy? And he tells me this. It's a very valuable lesson. He says, market's going down. Every day it seems like it's going down. Every day it seems like it's going down. And everybody thinks, no, today's the bottom. Today's the bottom. So I'm going to buy now, and the next day it goes down even worse. So the thing you bought today, tomorrow you could buy for 10% less. It's the worst feeling in the world. You bought it today, tomorrow you could have paid 10% less, 20% less, sometimes even worse. Especially when the market's volatile. It's worst. One time, I bought something. Thank God it wasn't that much, but I bought something for a client. Within a week, it was half price. I called the client, listen, we should buy some more. He said, if I had $5, I wouldn't buy one share. Because that's what the stock went to. It was $5. It was from 8 to 5. He says, if I had $5, I wouldn't buy one share. Anyway, I convinced him to buy another 10,000, and Baruch Hashem ended up going to 20. But the point being is that it didn't look so good after the first week. It didn't look so good. It looked terrible. But the reality is, how are you going to know? How are you going to know when's the bottom? If things are going down every day, going down, 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 down. You figure today, yes, 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, this stock was, 300. Today it's 30. You figure it went down enough. It's down 90%. You figure it went down enough. Okay, so I'm going to buy it today. The next day it's 25. It's like, oh, man. And the guy calls you, oh, come on, listen, I just bought $300,000 worth. Now it's worth $250,000. You guys, you suck. No, I didn't mean to. Wait, I didn't mean to. Don't mean. You just lost me $50,000. Mean to. There's no mean to. People want you to make the money. and want you to get the best price, especially when it's big money. So how do you know when it's the bottom? When the market is so volatile and going down. My friend Manny taught me this, and it worked. And it works very, very well. It's just that you have to have a few things. 1, you have to have money. 2, you have to have guts. In Wall Street terms, we call it a different word. And 3, you have to have siyata d'ishmaya. Some people want to call it luck. In reality, you have to have siyata d'ishmaya more than anything else. HaShem has to decide you're going to win more than anything else. But what is it? When do you buy? You buy, everything's going down, but for some reason, people are still supporting it. People are still buying it. It's going down. The house was on the market, $1 million. Market starts crashing, $800,000 a month later. People are still willing to pay for it. Yeah, I'll buy it. Okay. Don't buy. Goes down further, $600,000. Yeah, no, it's good. Don't buy it. People still want to buy it, don't buy it. Don't buy it. You don't want to buy it. When it's so low, people are throwing up because they think it's going to zero. When it's so low, like it went down so much, no one wants to touch it. No, this thing already went. Yeah, but it went down 90%. Doesn't matter. It's going to zero, this thing. But it's a real company. It's a real business. It's a real building. No, it's just going down. It's just going to go to zero. Everybody's depressed. People are throwing up in the street. It's awful. It's terrible. Everything. All of a sudden, yesterday it was worth a lot. Today everybody thinks it's worthless. That's when you buy. That's when you buy. When everyone is throwing up in the streets, that's when you buy. That's how you make money. That's how you make money in investments, whether it be real estate or it be in stocks or anything else. How many people can do this? Not many. Why? Because like I said, you need certain tools. Siyat lishmaya, that, I don't know how you get that, aside from learning Torah, I don't know how you get that. The money, a lot of people have money, but they still don't necessarily make all the right moves. Many times people make the wrong moves when they have money. They say, you want to be a millionaire, start with $1 billion. But, it's how do you do it? You have to have guts. You have to have guts to do something that everyone else is telling you you're wrong. But not a bunch of ignorant people telling you you're wrong. A bunch of knowledgeable people telling you you're wrong. When the knowledgeable people, if the ignorant people are telling you wrong, who cares what they're saying? It's like monkeys. Who cares? But when the knowledgeable people are telling you, no, yes, that's when you do it. And in reality, Rabotai, is very, very hard. But that's how, Baruch Hashem, those were the main times that we made money in the market, when nobody else wanted to buy. And we bought, and Baruch Hashem made a lot of money. Before Kadosh Baruch Hu took everything, but looked like fun for a while. Now, the Gemara teaches us you should have a third of your money in cash. Why? Investment opportunities are going to be much greater in the future than they are today. Because today everything has already gone up, and the main money has already been made. Even if it goes up a little bit further, how much more is it going to go up? In comparison to something that goes down 90% and you buy it after that, then you can make a lot of money, because it could go up perhaps to where it used to be, or even half of where it used to be still is double where it used to be. Now, the other reason though, is this is in a policy of how to deal with the exile section of the Kuntres by Rav Wasserman, is because many times this little bit of cash that a person has is simply the only way that he can survive after Amalek takes what he has. After the Germans take your house and your business, after the Nazis take away your factory, after they take away the gold, after they take away all of the obvious things, how are you going to start again? Could be that $5,000 that you hid in between the oven and some other piece of rock that looks like something else, but in reality was nothing, and you put it there. That little $5,000, not the money you had in the bank. The money in the bank, they took that also. The money in the bank, they took also. The money in the house, everything they took. But that $5,000 that you made fun of your husband that he was keeping it, you made fun of your wife that she's keeping it, that little, that part can start a whole new life. That part can start a whole new life. So it's highly recommended to have a little bit of cash. Why? Because again, if we all need to get out of here tomorrow, you can't take your house with you, you can't take your stock portfolio with you, you can't take nothing with you. You have to have a little bit of cash. And it's important to have something. Again, I don't necessarily recommend people have safes full of cash or anything, because even cash is really losing its value today. Everything is digital. But needless to say, things that are valuable that you can turn into cash very quickly are good. So this is one of the advices that the Gemara mentions. Needless to say, this is more relevant today than it was perhaps 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago we felt much safer than we do today. Today it became a reality for people to think, you know what, we may have to leave this country, whatever country you're in. Even if you're living in Israel, I have a few people who live in Israel, said, we have to leave this country. I said, you live in Israel already? He goes, exactly, I got to get out of here. I said, I thought I was going to get out of America. He goes, no, we're thinking about coming to you. I said, I was thinking about coming to you. I said, oh, where are we going to go then? Nobody knows where to go, but everybody thinks they need to leave. Why? Because the situation is what it is. Second advice he gives us is that this advice from the Torah is eternal. So therefore, if you don't follow everything I just said, everything Rav Wasserman said, you're not making a sin. It's not like eating pork. It's not violating Shabbat, Baruch Hashem. But you're simply rejecting good advice. Like if you think you are a better investor than what Shlomo HaMelech was, who's the one that this source comes from, this source comes from Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest man of all time. If you think you're a better investor than Shlomo HaMelech, do what you got to do. Go ahead. Go invest in whatever else you want to invest. Do what you got to do. But the reality is, you're rejecting it, and it's not a sin though. It's not a sin, just you're rejecting good advice. And then he gives us another example, which we'll focus the remainder of Shiur on, now that we finish with the introduction. Another example that the sages said is go down a step to take a wife. The Gemara Masechet Yevamot, page 63a. Advising a person to choose a wife that's on a level lower than him. Since the world is built on he will control you type of mentality, he doesn't want to become a stranger in his own house. Take this advice and have a good, in order to have a good life. What does this really mean? In today's world of upside down mentality, people want to marry above and beyond themselves. He wants to marry her because her dad has money. She wants to marry him because he's a doctor. He wants to marry her because her family is politicians. She wants to marry him because they are, upper echelon of society, and so on and so forth. People marry each other for the wrong reason. Needless to say, they get divorced for the right reasons because they shouldn't have been married in the first place. But the problem is that people do not know what marriage is really about. And the Gemara specifically says, if you're going to get married, here's some good advice for you. The same Gemara, Masechet Yevamot, page 63, says, first off, be deliberate when taking a wife. Meaning, think about it, investigate, talk to her, perhaps talk to some people that know who she is, get some references. Meaning the shidduch resume of today is nothing new. Just that it wasn't written back then. It was just simply everybody knew each other, or you knew somebody that knew each other, and you find out who she is. Why? Because if her whole family is full of criminals, it's not exactly a good show. It doesn't necessarily mean she's a criminal too, but again, see what your options are. See what she is. See how far she is from the tree, if at all. Don't be so abrupt. I need to get married. Let me just get whatever I can. No, take it easy. Yeah, but I need to get married. Yes, you need to get married, but you also don't need to get divorced. So think of what you're doing before you do it. But then it says something completely off left field, which is go down a step and take a wife. Don't marry a woman that's on an upper echelon than you, that's higher than you, meaning she makes more money than you, it's not a good thing. She has a higher place in society than you, not a good thing. She's more accomplished than you, not so good. Gemara says, you can marry her if you want, it's not a good idea. Why? Because the Torah already knows how people are. And people have a tendency to dominate whoever is beneath them. Therefore, if your wife is more accomplished than you, she will want to dominate you, which is abnormal in society. Not today's society of abnormality being the normal, but historically speaking, the woman is not supposed to dominate the house. She's supposed to raise the house, take care of the house, take care of the children. The Gemara calls her house because without her there is no house. She's extremely important and perhaps even more important than the men. The MaShiach is only coming because of the merit of the women, not the merit of the men. But she's not supposed to dominate the husband. She's not supposed to dominate the house. Why? Because that's the way that HaShem created the world. Everybody has their role. She's supposed to raise the kids, make sure that they're taken care of, make sure that they're learning Torah, encourage the husband to go learn Torah. That's why she goes to Gan Eden and so on. But as far as making the rules of the house, it's supposed to be by the man. You're not supposed to move a house because your wife wants to. You should if it's a good place and if it's going to make her happy. But if she wants to move next door to her Abba and Ima in a bad neighborhood or in a place that's pretty much contrary to anything else that's good for you, you can't move there. In fact, it's not good for you to live next to your in-laws anyway, not your parents or her parents. Why? Because what's going to end up happening is that you're going to have two more people in your marriage. What do you think? That your parents can hold themselves back from being involved into your house if they could simply be in your house every day? People make the biggest mistake in their life when they say, oh no, we just got married, so we're saving money, so we're living with my in-laws. I said, okay, good luck with your divorce. Good luck with your divorce. Make sure that you have the rabbi's number that wed you, because he probably still wants the business for divorce too. Why? That's what's going to happen. Either divorce or misery. You live in your parents' house, you live in her parents' house, that means you're also married to them. That means you're going to have two wives and a husband. Same thing if you live in his house. You live in his parents' house, guess what? You're going to have 2 husbands and a wife. And that wife is Shem Yishmo. The husband's mom, always the worst person on earth. To the world. Why? Why didn't you cook for my son? Well, no, he's not home yet. Yeah, but he should be ready when he's home. Okay, I'll go make it. Oh, why are you going to make that? Let me show you how to cook. Who wants that in their life? Who wants that in their life? Now, the mom may as well be the best person on earth. But when it comes to the marriage and taking care of our son, she doesn't think anybody could take care of our son better than her. So she kind of has a little bit of a tiff with the wife because, I raised him for 20, 30 years. What, you took him? Who do you think you are? And it's a little thing. It's not good to live next to you. It's the reality. It's just the reality. That's what the Torah itself says in Sefer Bereshit. Leave the parents' house. Not because they're bad people. They're just not good for your marriage. You go, you visit, they visit, and so on, when time allows, and it's appropriate, and so on. But the problem is people think, no, because I get along with my parents, because she gets along with my parents, we should live together. Mistake. Many times people make these mistakes also with who they pick to marry. And they pick a woman that's more successful than them. Pick a woman that's on a higher society level than they are, and what ends up happening is before they know it, they become a little puppy. Oh, honey, we're going there, but I don't want to go there. Okay, well, we're going to go there anyway. Yeah, but I got a shiur to go to. Okay, fine, you have a shiur, but we're going there because my parents are there, or because my boss is there, or because this is there. You have a wife like that, most likely you're not going to go to Gehenom. That's what Gemara says. Most likely you're not going to go to Gehenom. You know why? You're going to live in Gehenom your whole life. A wife like that is going to be a very difficult wife. Why? She's going to tell you what to do all day. It's not a good life. Why? Because you picked her because she has more money than you, she has a more established career than you, and you figure that this is going to be better for me. Gemara says otherwise. You have to pick someone that's, again, lower than you. I'm not talking about go look for in the homeless shelter, go look for anybody that says hi. I'm not saying that. But again, don't be like one of these fools and think, I'm going to marry into money. I'm going to marry because she has money. I'm going to marry because our father's accomplished. Don't do that. If they happen to be fine, but don't look for that stuff. Why? It's a trap. It's a trap that can cause a lot of problems, and I know a few times. I've had people that I know that made this mistake, thought that they were winning a lotto ticket, and it was the biggest mistake in their life. In one case, the guy was actually pretty successful. He became a lawyer, did well for himself, but his wife that he chose came from a family that has the amount of money that you could pretty much do whatever you want, planes and helicopters. Even in their wedding didn't allow him to invite whoever he wanted. So no, you only have 50 guests. Yeah, but there's 500 people. Yeah, 500 people, but 50 from your family. They didn't allow him to invite the people he wanted to the wedding. He said, okay, but let us go, whatever, it's just a wedding, who cares, let me just get married. Thinking I'm going to get some of this money anyway. Who cares? He didn't realize that he's marrying the father, not the daughter. Every single day the father would come to the house and check and this and torture him. He survived about 2 or 3 years, and then he said, okay, the heck with all of it. Leaving, left the whole thing. Nightmare. But that's what happened. That's what happens. It's many times you have these people that think that they are going to marry into high society, like that's their ticket in. The Gemara tells us it's a very, very bad idea. You could try it, but like it says, it's not a sin to try going against this. It's just not listening to good advice. Now, this brings us to a point of really understanding, who really you should marry. Who really you should marry. Because in today's world, love and lust are synonymous. Most people think that they love the person they're marrying. Little do they know, they don't even know what love is yet. They lust, but they think it's love. And for most people, they can actually live an entire life with just lust and no love whatsoever, because they still don't know what it really is. And many times, it's because we're constantly trying to fit into an image that we think society puts us into, and that's how we're supposed to be. There's a famous story that once said that came from Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, alav hashalom, and he said that one time a couple came to him, and the guy was from Tunisia, old Sephardi, and he had a wife for several years, young, tzaddikah, tznuah, modest and righteous, doesn't speak much, but they show up to the Rav. Okay, that's it. I've had it with her. I'm leaving her. Why you want to get? Why? No, it's not for me, not for me. What happened? As you would have it, this guy got married, and he said, you know what? I'm going to invite some of my friends to the house, have a nice chafla at the house with some of his friends from work. So he brought his friends from work, and they came, and they had there's a few beers, and there's a few nuts and peanuts and this and that. And the friends are looking around, all laughing and this and that. And they look around, where's your wife? I said, oh, she's in the room. So they start laughing at him. It's like, what is that, a maid? What happened to your wife? How come your wife is not like with the guys, talking to us and stuff? What kind of wife is this? His wife was a tzaddikah. What business does she have hanging out with the guys? She saw he's with his friends. Okay, she went to the room, and that's it. She's praying Tehillim. What are you going to do? Hang out with guys? Not like today's people think, no, if she doesn't hang out with the guys, there's something wrong with her. It's demented. She sees her husband's with some people. Okay, she goes to her room, and that's it. So the guys who didn't know anything about Torah, they start making fun of him. Would you marry a clean lady? Would you marry a maid? You need to find a nice girl that's going to hang out with us, going to be like one of the boys, this, that. And they really hit home with him. After they left, he said, that's it. I've had it with this one. He goes to the rabbi, goes, I want to get, I don't want this one. Comes to Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. I don't want this one. Okay. Poor woman, what's she going to do? She's crying over there. What's she going to say? This guy doesn't want me. I did everything right, he doesn't want me. He wants somebody that's from a kibbutz. That's what he wants. So, gives her the get. Not long passes. The friends say, oh, you left her? We're going to find you a girl. They bring him one of these zonot from the kibbutz. Walks around with a tank top. Like one of the guys. Hey. You want a beer? They're one of those people. Yalla, okay, I'm married. Okay, yalla, okay. So they have a friend. Guys, come on. I want to show you my new wife. Come to the house. Yeah. Okay. So the guys come back. All this happening literally within a month. All the guys come to the house. The same thing. There's some peanuts and some beer and some this and that. And the girl, the wife, is sitting over there, like the guys. They have, tank tops on. She has tank tops on. They look like they're drunk. She looks like she's drunk. Everybody's the same thing. Everybody's sitting over there. So the guy that was married to his first wife for a few years, he's used to, the wife taking care of stuff. Go get her some things. Different little things, help the guest, whatever. But the girl is with them, and everybody's laughing. So he says to his wife, wants to impress the guys, honey, come on, throw a couple of burgers, make us for us. She says to him, what? Throw who? She says, make me the guys a couple of burgers, or maybe something to eat. She looks at him and says, huh? What do you think, I'm a waitress? Go make it yourself. Make me one too. Oh, the guys are laughing, having a ball on this. This guy just told them, ooh, like those guys, ooh, oh, snap, oh, like those guys like to heat up the volcano, oh, like that. That's even 40 years ago, Rabotai. Even 40 years ago, it was Hashem like this. Oh, we should go, yeah. Okay, you know what happened? He said, oh. He starts yelling at her like from Tunis. You don't talk to me like this. Like that. She takes the beer bottle on the right, the beer bottle left. His whole face, head full of blood. They call the cops. They break them up. They call the ambulance. Take him to the hospital. His whole face is full of blood. His head is full of blood. He comes back after he's released from the hospital. He comes back to Rav Mordechai Eliyahu with the first wife. He says, for the Rav, I want to marry her and I want to divorce the other one. But she said she's not going to listen to me unless you say so. Tzaddikah, no one touched her, no one looked at her since she left her. She's allowed to marry her again. But he says, for the Rav, The other one, I don't want to be with her anymore. I want to be with this one. I want to be my first wife. I made a mistake. And the girl says, listen, only if the Rav says. So Rav Mordechai Eliyahu sends them to a well-known Rav named Rav Raphael Kavin Tzaban. Talmid Chacham and Yirei Shamayim, and knew the couple even better, knew the situation better. Go to him. Go talk to him. Whatever he says, I put my blessing on it. So they go to him and tell him the situation. And Rav Tzaban says, after 2 beer bottles to the head, he learned his lesson. You can marry him. He'll respect you now. He'll take care of you now. Couple of beer bottles to the head, you learn a lesson. But that's the thing. Sometimes guys and girls marry people because of other people. They marry people because of other people, what they look like, or what they do, and what this and that. It's a mistake. It's a very big mistake that people make time and time again because they don't understand that marriage is part of the long marathon in life. Marriage is part of the long marathon in life, and you need this wife, you need this husband in order to get to heaven. If you pick the wrong one, it's going to be very difficult to get there. Because it's very difficult to be righteous when the other person is constantly steering you in the opposite way. Many times, the friends you choose are the reason why you don't go to heaven. When Arav Uri Zohar, Shichyeh, when he first did tshuva, the secular world went berserk. Because he was not only a celebrity, a successful one, a movie producer of all the filthiest movies, but needless to say, was very popular with the people. So much so that the secular world in Israel had a billboard in the middle of the highway, writing on it after he did tshuva, Uri, tell us, why did you leave everything? Why did you leave us? Like they couldn't deal with it. So one time, Rav Uri Zohar comes out of his house, and people simply thought he was crazy. All of a sudden, this movie star is now religious. Looks like a rabbi, he's got a little beard. What's going on here? So a couple of guys that didn't know much, outside of his house, saw him outside, and started making fun of him. You know, those people that you pass by and they start laughing for no reason. So a couple of guys were looking, young guys, were laughing. Oh, he's crazy, he lost his mind. Look at this guy's crazy, he used to be this. He just gave up millions of dollars, crazy. So he took the opportunity, he says, come guys. So they come to him. He says, you guys are probably asking why I left the movie business, why I left everything. He said, yeah, why? He said, you know how they say that these religious people really, they hide all the money under the rocks and everything, they have all the money, but they pretend like they don't have everything? I said, yeah, that's true. La, yeah? Yeah. Not only that, these religious people, they told me they'll give me $10,000 for me to look like this for a week. Each week, $10,000. The 2 guys like, no! I said, yeah. So how can we get in? He goes, you're going to put pay out? Yeah, pay out from here. Sure, antennas, up, down, sideways. Yeah. You'll go, beard, it grows. Ooh. I'll put a fake one until the one grows, no problem. You're going to put a suit on? Yeah, 2 suits, 3 suits, 4 suits, whatever you want. $1,000, tell them $1,000. Maybe they're running out of money with you. They paid you a lot. $1,000 for each one of us, we're good. He takes both of them by the shirt. He grabs both of them, he says. I grabbed both of them. He said, look at you fools. For $1,000, you're willing to grow horns, spears, go and keep Shabbat 3 days a week, eat food that you don't even know what it is, do anything and everything for $1,000. But an eternity of good, to go to Gan Eden, or needless to say, to avoid Gehenom, he tells them, to avoid the eternal fire, you're not even willing to put $1 into it. Both of them got shock of their life and ran away. But surely they didn't enjoy their sins as much. The point is, Rabotai, is that sometimes A person can stay a secular-minded person because of the wife that he has, or the husband she has, or the friends they have. Because they're not listening to the Torah's advice, but rather they're listening to their friend's advice or some other ignorant person's advice. But Rav Wasserman tells us over the last several months that although a bad wife is dangerous, although a bad friend is dangerous, although a bad husband is dangerous, a bad brother is dangerous, a cousin is dangerous, all of that is dangerous. The one thing that he repeatedly mentions that's more dangerous than all is a bad shepherd. A bad person that you're listening to and learning from, whether it be a rabbi or a politician or any type of influential figure that you're listening to, and you're allowing that to enter your mind and your heart, that is worse than all. Unfortunately today, people listen to a lot of bad stuff, and it's not just coming from their wife and their husband and their kids and their colleagues even. Yeah, some people complain, listen, I work at this company and everybody's upside down, and everybody's heretical, and everybody's this. Guess what? It's not really going to change you, don't worry. If you're strong with your learning, you're strong with your emunah, you're strong with everything you need to do, you're going to be okay. But you know what's going to really mess you up? If your teacher is a heretic. If your local rabbi is a heretic, if the speaker you listen to is a heretic, if you allow that source of information to be heretical, for sure, it's a matter of time before you become worse than them. The Sefer Me'irat Einayim by Rav Yitzhak Akko, Rav Yitzhak Miako, who was the Talmid of the Ramban. So you're talking about 800 years ago. In Parashat Vayishlach, he writes, be careful of the philosophy and the teachings of that heretic Aristotle. Because many people think that the Rambam spoke highly of the Aristotle as if he liked him, appreciated him, and thought of him as an equal of some kind. But the student of the Rambam says this guy is a complete heretic. Yes, he was smart. But don't ever forget he was a heretic. Don't ever forget he was an animal. And he brings a story. He brings a story here that's unknown among many people. Because Aristotle was known as not only a smart person, foundation of philosophy is not just for philosophers. In fact, the entire secular educational system today is based on Aristotle's teachings. Like all of what you learn in public schools and universities, all of it has their connection, their tentacles, their beginnings from Aristotle, if not the entire foundation of it all. So it's not all philosophical-minded types of people. No. Aristotle made a pretty big footprint. And unfortunately, a footprint that affected the Jewish world. But that's because many people don't know who Aristotle was as a person. They just look at certain teachings and they assume the person matches the teachings because he spoke like a socialite, an elite. But he was nothing even remotely close to that. And the Sefer Me'irat Einayim brings a story that's unlike any other. Where Aristotle, I told you guys a story of how Aristotle was once caught by his students eating from a bowl on all fours. He was on all fours and he would eat from a bowl like a dog. And his students asked him, aren't you the one that taught us to be civilized and this and that? How are you eating like this? And he takes his face out of the bowl with all the junk on his face like an animal. And he says to them, when I eat, I'm not Aristotle. Meaning, he allowed himself to be an animal, like this is not a problem. He didn't think anything wrong of it. Like you guys are thinking there's something wrong with it. He didn't. Now, this is what happens when your teachings are not from the Torah, Because if they're not from the Torah, they don't necessarily have to affect you as a human being. Like, a person that's a mathematician doesn't necessarily need to be an honest person in business, just because they know the math and the calculations. You know, a person that's someone that's an expert in archaeology doesn't necessarily mean that they have to tell you the truth of whether this thing is a fossil or just something they found in their backyard that really was part of a toy, but it kind of looks like a fossil. Like, you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily, just their expertise doesn't change their character traits, honesty, dishonesty, and so on. But Torah, if it doesn't change the person, the Gemara says a Talmid Chacham who has bad character traits, a dead animal in the middle of the street is better than him. Because the whole point of the Torah is to change the character. But this Aristotle not only didn't change his character, in fact, it made it worse. His own teaching made it worse. And the Sefer Me'irat Einayim says a story where his number one student, Aristotle's number one student, was Alexander the Great. Alexander Macedon. And one time, since Aristotle was privy to roam the palace whenever he felt like it, he saw Alexander's pretty wife. And he saw that Alexander wasn't around. And he says to his wife, "Why don't you and I get together?" And his wife hated Aristotle. The wife of Alexander the Great hated Aristotle because she thought that he was, Alexander made too much of a big deal out of him. She didn't think of him as such a big deal. And she hated him for it. But now she has an opportunity. Why? He wants to be with her. So she took this opportunity to prove a point. She says, "Listen, you want to be with me? Fine. But you know that, Alexander, if you catch us, you kill us. So, but at the same token, I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to be with you. So I want to I'll give you your desire, you give me my desire." He says, "What's your desire?" He says, "I want to ride you like like a horse. I want you to walk on all fours and me to ride on top of you. That's what I want to do. That's my desire." He says, "Fine, if that's your desire, fine, I'll do it." Elite, socialite, this, that, Renaissance man. If she's going to give me my desire, I'll pretend to be a horse, I'll pretend to be a cat, I'll pretend to be a pig, whatever she wants. Okay, so she says to him, "On such and such time, on such and such date, this and that, we're going to meet here, and we'll do it." Okay, she goes back to Alexander. She says, "Look at your teacher, that piece of garbage. I always told you he's a piece of garbage. He came on to me." Alexander said to him, "Come on, you lowly woman. Who's going to come on to you? What do you think you are? You're lucky I'm with you. He's such a big, wise man. He would never even look at you. You're a nothing next to him." She goes, "How about this? I'll prove it to you. On this and this day, on this and this time, I'm going to be riding on him like a horse." He says, "Okay, let's see." So the appointment was made. She shows up. Aristotle shows up. They're doing the horse and carriage. And Alexander the Great walks in and sees his great teacher that he held almost like a god. He sees his great teacher pretty much an animal. Now, because he held him to such higher praise and he felt bad, he didn't kill him. But he tortured him for a while. But this is one of the stories where, if it doesn't shock you, that you would think, like, why would anybody learn from such an animal? Why would anybody learn from such an idiot? Now, in today's world, they're going to say, "Okay, what's the big deal? So some people have, that's what toots their horn." Because that's how sick people are today. That actually shows how sick people are today. Most people are not really going to be affected by this story like a normal person is supposed to be. Most people are going to say, "Well, what's so bad about that? Well, if he likes that, that's what he likes. What's the problem? What, she's married? Okay, so that's what's the problem with that? Oh, so he's dead." Like, people won't see the 50 different things that are wrong with the story and still choose to listen to this idiot. Still choose to learn from him. Why? Because they think that what he said is smart, therefore that could be separate from the rest of the filth. But that doesn't work that way. In the Torah world, it doesn't matter how smart a person is. The Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan says, if he has bad character traits, it's forbidden to learn from him. If he has heretical mindset, if he says heretical things, you're not allowed to learn from him. It's like eating pig. And unfortunately, Rabotai Yekarim, many times, people arrive at the wrong conclusion because the source of their information is horrendous. Now, I've mentioned this person in the past, but it seems like it needs to be mentioned again because perhaps people didn't hear enough and they still do it. Or maybe I didn't say enough and people are not listening. Or simply no one cares. I'm not sure. Who do you think is the most famous American Jewish speaker is? Let's call it religious, but furthest from the truth. What do you guys think is the most famous religious? Mattis Friedman, Machshimo, no. No. Huh? Jonathan Sachs, no. Shapiro. What's his name again? First name? Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is a smart, clever young man. He's probably around my age, maybe a little give or take. Speaks extremely fast, like a New Yorker. Sharp. Knows a little bit about a lot of different things and can hold a conversation with the best of them, needless to say, debate. And he wears a little kippah. So he presents Judaism for many people. It shouldn't surprise you that a few idiots have asked me if he could be MaShiach. Because he wears a kippah and once in a while he mentions God. When it suits him, people think, oh, maybe he's going to be Mashiach. Now, in order to be Mashiach, at the first least, you have to be a righteous Jew. Like you can't be a Rasha, heretic, and be Mashiach at the same time. That cannot be. Which means that at the very least, a person needs to meet the requirement of being a righteous Jew, meaning he has to believe what the Torah says, he has to follow what it says, right? Meaning you have to believe and accept the 13 principles of faith and follow what it says, right? The whole Torah. Now, because he speaks fast, because he speaks well, and even correctly on many topics politically, ignorant people, and even sometimes people that are not as ignorant but simply easily fooled and naive, assume that what he says when it comes to Torah also is correct. Like his opinion, for example, about the political situation as far as whether it be racism, whether really there is racism as much people say as there is or not, or his opinion about abortion. Many of the things that he says are correct when it comes to that. When he talks about the liberal, lefty-minded types of people and how much damage they cause to society, many of the things that he says are correct. There's no problem with it. But I wish he would just shut his mouth and stick to those topics and don't even say a single word about Torah. Because every single word that comes out of his mouth when he talks Torah is heretical. So much so, I have to mention it again today. Because his videos are extremely popular. His show is extremely popular. He gets to literally millions of followers, millions of listeners. And many ignorant people, Jews and non-Jews alike, actually think that what he says is correct. And no one is speaking against it from the Jewish world. A few Christians are speaking against it, but everything they believe is also wrong. So who's listening to them? So the problem is that he says things that are completely idiotic, and when it comes to the truth. But worse yet, they're against the 13 principles of faith. For example, he does not believe in things that he can't prove scientifically. That in itself is heretical. That in itself is heretical. That's a philosopher-minded person. That's how the philosophers in Greece and Rome, that's what they had a belief. The way they tried to destroy Judaism and Torah World, say, look, we can't see God, therefore it doesn't exist. It's like, see, there's a closet, okay, so the closet exists. You see that there is a building, okay, so the building exists. You see that there's a chair, okay, so that the chair exists. Do you see God? Oh, you don't see God, okay, so therefore God doesn't exist. Until a clever young Jewish guy came in, a little Jewish kid says, oh, you see the chair? Yeah, so the chair exists. You see the books? Okay, so the books exist. You see the people? So the people exist. You see the teacher's brain? No. Okay, so it doesn't exist. So he has the mentality that if he doesn't see things, therefore he doesn't know whether they exist or not, and he gives the impression that they may or may not. In Judaism, we don't have such luxury to say maybe yes, maybe not, and whatever we feel like it. So, for example, when he was asked by some atheist that he had a sit-down with, which, by the way, according to the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to have conversations with such people. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says that Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkonos benefited by simply enjoying one word, like a joke, that a Christian said, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu almost killed him for it. Not allowed to have these debates with Christians just for the sake of a show, or have these discussions, these sit-down coffee discussions with people. Oh, let me talk to the atheist and have a nice conversation. Not allowed to have such things. Why? Because Jewish people follow you, they could potentially follow him as a result too. This atheist, this heretic, because of you. Yeah, but that's my show. Okay, well, you should change your show then. What can I tell you? And he has these debates with Christian missionaries and alikes, and atheists, and all types of people that we as Jews are not allowed to listen to. Hence the reason why all of a sudden in the last few years, many modern Orthodox Jews began to have an interest in Christianity. This is one of the sources. Because he's very popular and he speaks to Christians on a regular basis, especially the Christian missionary types. He speaks to them and debates with them. Many modern Orthodox people get to see a little bit of Yoshke in their life. A little bit of Mary, a little bit of Yoshke, maybe some Yossi. But you have a keep on. Yeah, keep on. You're still a Jew. That's what happens. That's what happens in this philosophical type of minded. You allow yourself to roam in the lion's den. Now he allows himself to roam in the lion's den because he did good in the political world as far as speaking against and tearing down a few people, so he figures that he could take on religion also. And unfortunately he's destroying any one of his listeners that has any inclination to Judaism at all. Why? Because everything he says is wrong. It's simply wrong. He says that he doesn't believe that there is a soul or an afterlife because he's not really sure. Or maybe there is, but I'm not really sure. But probably not. That's what he says. So in essence, you die, probably nothing going on. You just turn to a tree. Just turn to a tree. Why is he so? The guy asks him, so why do you keep the mitzvot? Why do you keep the Torah? He goes, I keep the Torah because I think that by following the religion, it's just simply going to give you a better quality of life and a better society. Not because God said so. Because it's better to have rules. The Rambam writes, a goy, needless to say a Jew, a goy that keeps the 7 Noahide laws, just because they make sense to him, because he thinks it's going to give him a better life, and not because God said so, not only is called a fool in heaven, but on top of it does not get rewarded for them. Does not go to heaven, goes to Gehinnom. Why? You only go to heaven if you listen to the Torah because God said so. Not because it makes sense to you not to murder. Not because it makes sense to you not to steal. But the little kippah guy from the blog, Ben Shapiro, no, he does it because he thinks it's better for society, it's better for humanity to keep it.
Where we were.
Well, do you believe there's a soul or something like a soul, a pattern of information that represents who you are that floats off the body and continues on? After
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. And I don't think anybody has a great verifiable account of that.
Right.
I have suspicions, but again, they're suspicions, less about knowledge. What I do know, and the reason why I'm religious, is that a religious lifestyle that is based on certain fundamental premises, I think makes life better for people. I think that the rules that are set down, as currently understood at least, are rules that are likely to lead you to leading a happier and better life than your pure reason alone. Because pure reason alone, unleashed, without even those moorings in Judeo-Christianity, can lead to a lot of really terrible places.
Furthermore, doesn't really believe in reincarnation. Doesn't believe in reincarnation. Doesn't make sense to him. Resurrection of the dead, doesn't really agree with what the sages said, because he thinks that the whole issue of reincarnation and just the whole mystical aspect of the Torah is just something that came up recently as a defense against Christianity. That's how little he knows. He thinks that the whole mystical part of the Torah is something that came up in recent generations as a defense against the Christian idol worship. This is how stupid he is when it comes to Torah. I wish he was half as smart about Torah as he is about all the other nonsense that he talks about and the serious things that he talks about. But the problem is that the ego has grown so much, he simply assumes knowledge. Assumes knowledge.
So I was curious, by the way, that the ancient Jews said the Sheol, and you don't go anywhere after your death, right?
Yeah, the idea of the afterlife is a pretty modern invention in Judaism. Yeah. It really only crops up, historically speaking, a little bit in the prophets, and it's usually the late prophets.
Right.
And it's really maybe as a response to early Christianity or Greek thought. So yeah, in the Bible itself, there's no reference. In the Torah, there's no reference to the afterlife.
So what
at
do you
all.
think happens after the death of your body?
So I mean, I only have suspicions because, again, unverifiable. My suspicion is that if there is a God, which I believe, who exists outside of time and space, and that what animates me is that I'm made in the image of God, and that what animates my capacity is that I'm made in the image of God, that I reunify with God. That basically there's the traditional Jewish take on this has been that there's a cleansing process. Judaism doesn't believe in eternal hell. So it's instead this idea that there's a cleansing process for your soul, the part that you got from God, that spark of life that you got from God. You've schmutzed it up while you're alive, and now there's a cleansing process, and that's what hell is, sort of. And then you are reunited with God, and you have greater understanding. The idea of me being a distinct personage outside of my body, I think, is a difficult one. That's my own personal belief.
So you don't think you're physically resurrected into heaven with God?
No, yeah, I think that
something like a soul or energy or consciousness or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, a form like an Aquinas form, right? But yes, I think that those are actually two different things in Judaism as well. Like the idea of Tichiyat HaMetim, which is the idea of resurrection of the dead. That's a different idea than what happens after you die, right? Tichiyat HaMetim is the idea that eventually the Messiah comes, that we'll all be resurrected back in our physical bodies at a certain point, which, honestly, given the nature of how science is moving and the possibilities of cloning, is actually less crazy than it sounded probably a couple of thousand years ago.
Yeah, I debunk most of the modern, the singularity's coming, we're going to upload everybody into the cloud, and this is not going to happen. No, definitely.
I mean, not. That's good to know, because I just feel like the computer would be really weird. It's weird to live inside a computer. But
or that we're living in a computer now, but there's no buffering or little pixels that are going off.
One of the worst things that I think is just completely ridiculous, but unfortunately I believe many people will believe him in this, is when the guy asked him about MaShiach. He says, "You wait for MaShiach?" He says, "Yeah, but it's not MaShiach like people think, like it's going to be some mystical figure. No, I'm waiting for a strong politician to come and bring order to the world."
You're not waiting for the Messiah to come.
Right.
He's not coming
I'm waiting for the Messiah to come in the form of a political figure, right? So the Messiah in Judaism is a guy who's going to come back and is going to establish peace in Israel and is going to assure that there's sort of a happier world with a bunch of political aspects to it, as explained by Maimonides. But he's going to die too, right? He's not going to come back and everybody lives forever and any of that kind of stuff.
He's a corporeal agent. He's just like us.
Right. Right. And in the Jewish view, any person could be the Messiah. Any Jew can be the Messiah in the Jewish view. Right. So I could be it. Who knows? But it's not, I'm not. But
you're off to a good start.
He thinks the MaShiach is going to be a politician. HaShem yishmor v'yatzil. If the MaShiach is a politician, we should all commit suicide. The qualifications for a politician is to be a liar. A liar and a liar. You don't have to do anything else other than be a liar. The people running for the highest office are typically the biggest liars. Somebody showed me a video that apparently just hit the tape again of this imbecile Joe Biden, who's running for president now. One of the dumbest people in the universe is fooling the rest of the universe at the same time, which shows how stupid the rest of society is. He was caught lying on TV 20, 30 years ago about everything. He says he has 3 degrees from college, barely has 1. Said that he was a top of his class in college. Out of 82 students, he was 75th, meaning he was retarded. He wasn't even top 50 percentile. The degrees he says he has, he doesn't have. The accomplishments he says he has, he doesn't have. He doesn't even know how to speak. Needless to say, to speak for himself. They have pictures of him during a debate with Donald Trump where he's getting fed lines. There's a microphone in his hand, a microphone in his ear. Someone is telling him what to say. He doesn't know how to speak. In a debate, the whole point is to know what you have on your mind. He has people telling him what to say. When he gives a speech, he reads from a thing. Somebody's telling him what to say. To a news network. About himself, he doesn't know what to say. When he was told, read off these numbers, this report of coronavirus, of how many deaths there happened, and so on. He doesn't know numbers. He says 1,000 and 100 and 5,000 and 6,000 and 5,000 and 6,000. All is one number. All of this is, he doesn't know anything. And guess what? He could potentially be the next president of the United States. One of the dumbest people that ever walked the surface of the earth could potentially be in a position of power, which really means the people behind him become president. We just don't know who they are. So you don't really have to be smart to be dangerous. But when you're smart, it actually makes you more dangerous. Needless to say, Ben Shapiro, in my opinion, more dangerous than Biden to the Jewish world. Why? Because many Jews, especially young ones, listen to him and hold what he says as this is Judaism. Why? He has a kippah on. He's modern Orthodox. He says he's, modern Orthodox. He doesn't deny it. He says he's proud to be a Jew. But once in a while, he'll say something heretical that either you don't know that it's heretical, or if it is, you're just like, oh, he probably has a source because he's so smart and he says it so quickly, he probably knows what he's talking about. So when he says that he thinks the Mashiach is going to be a politician, people are like, oh, you know what, that makes sense. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I thought, you know what? Maybe Trump is going to be Mashiach. Yeah, but he has to be a Jew too. No. Ben Shapiro will figure that out. Maybe Ben Shapiro is going to run for office and he's Mashiach really. And people have all these ludicrous beliefs when a person doesn't know the very basics of Judaism. Doesn't know anything, any basics about Judaism. Violates the 13 principles of faith openly and in public. Says that the things that you prayed for, all of you prayed for on Yom Kippur. You had a vidui gadol. And the vidui gadol, you said, I'm sorry for a lot of things. But you know also what you said I'm sorry for? You said, I'm sorry for all the things you did during this life and the previous life. Meaning what? Reincarnation and a soul is not a mystical belief that only some people follow. It's the foundation of Judaism. It's the fundamentals of Judaism. It's not something that just came up and you could choose. It's in your machzor. You said, I'm sorry for your previous life. Meaning, you testified that you have lived before this life. So, when someone says things like that so carelessly, and just has conversations with heretics like they're friends, guess what? Not only does it show that they're damaged, they've become a heretic, they are a heretic, but all of the fans, all of the listeners, all of the people that are listening to him, especially after today, after listening to today, for sure are either heretics or on their way to being heretics. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, but he's really popular. Maybe he could do this, maybe he could do that. Alvai does tshuva. But Rabotai, popularity doesn't mean good. Big noise doesn't mean good. The Sefer Melachim, Aleph, Kings 1, has an extraordinary story in it that gives us a little bit of an idea of what to expect as far as how MaShiach is going to show up. Because most of us, we think that MaShiach is going to come in some type of flashy way. All of a sudden, some politician takes off the mask and says, I am Mashiach. Or some guy on YouTube says, I am Mashiach. And makes some type of scene. It doesn't work that way. It won't work that way. I promise you it won't work that way. Eliyahu Navi did everything and anything possible that he could to defend the honor of Hashem. In chapter 19 of the book of Kings 1, Eliyahu Navi is fleeing Achav and Izebel after they killed righteous prophets, and he rebuked them. They tried to kill him and he fled them. He eventually gets to the desert, can't find any food, and he passes out after crying to Hashem that he tried his best, it's not working, there's no food, there's no nothing. I guess Hashem wants to kill me, that's it, I don't deserve to live. Suddenly, an angel of Hashem comes to Eliyahu Navi, wakes him up, and tells him, eat this. And miraculously, there was a little bit of food and water next to Eliyahu Navi in the middle of the desert. Eliyahu, so tired and consumed and literally on the verge of dying, he was barely able to get up and eat the food. He drank, he ate, and he passed out. Shortly later, that same angel wakes him up again, says, eat this. More food. You're going to need it because the journey is long. He eats the food and gets superhuman powers to allow him to walk through the desert for 40 days and 40 nights without eating and drinking, or stopping, or sleeping. This is in the Tanakh. Supernatural, but it's literal. After 40 days and 40 nights of walking through the desert, he arrives at Mount Chorev, Mount Sinai. Gets to the mountain. This is where Hashem wants him to be. But he doesn't know why, because Hashem hasn't spoken to him in a long time. Last he heard of him was 40 days ago from the angel. Suddenly he hears a message. Why are you here, Elijah? Ma lecha po Eliyahu. What are you doing here? We do in Mount Sinai. In essence, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking him, what's your best merit that allows you to be here? Why? If I was Eliyahu, I'd say, listen, I prayed every day in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, I learned Torah, I did Mitzvot, and by the way, I did some rebuking, I did some this and this and that. I mentioned everything, the whole cheshbon, everything I ever did since the time I was born. Everything I remember, I'm going to mention. Eliyahu Navi mentions one thing. Says one mitzvah I did, that's everything. Vayomer, kano kineti la Adonai Elohai Tzevaot. כי עזבו בריתך בני ישראל, את מזבחותיך הרסו, ואת נביאיך הרגו בחרב. He says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I have acted with great zealousness for HaShem, God of legions. For the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They have raised your altars, and have killed your prophets by the sword. ויוותר אני לבדי ויבקשו את נפשי לקחתה. And he says to him, and now I alone have remained, and they now seek to take my life. In essence, Eliyahu Navi tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why am I here? I was the only guy that was zealous for you. I was the only guy that rebuked Am Yisrael because they went against the Torah. They said heretical things. They worshipped idols. They did all types of things. I fought for your name. That's it. Forget about my prayers. Forget about my tzedakah. Forget about my learning. Forget everything else. This is why am I here? You're asking me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I'm here because I fought for you. Many stupid people say, oh, why does Hashem need you to fight for him? No, he doesn't need you to fight for him. He wants you to fight for him. Eliyahu Navi could have answered any other answer. He was a righteous person. He was a tzaddik, talmid chacham, kodesh kodeshim. But Eliyahu says, I was zealous. I fought for your name. When? And everybody else was going against you. And now, because I went against them and for you, they all want to kill me. Not just write stupid comments about me on the internet. Not just not donate. Not just steal money. Not just ban you. No, they want to kill me, Hashem. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds to him in kind. He says to Eliyahu, go out in the cave and stand on the mountain. Stand on top of the mountain. Hashem is saying, I'm going to show you myself. It says, and behold, Hashem was passing, and great powerful wind, smashing mountains, and breaking rocks, went before Hashem. But then a message came out. Hashem is not in the wind. There's a big wind. Wow, Hashem's in the wind. He's probably somewhere in this tornado. Passes, and then a message comes out. Hashem is not the wind. He's not inside the wind either. Then after that, a huge noise, an earthquake. See, the whole mountain is shaking, the ground is shaking. And the message comes out. Hashem is not in the earthquake. Hashem is not in the earthquake. Lo baruach Hashem. And after the earthquake comes a fire. And again, it says Hashem is not in the fire. And after all of this theatrics, this extraordinary miracles after miracle, I can't even imagine what Eliyahu Navi was looking at. Suddenly, nothing. no noise at all. No sound at all. And that's when Hashem shows up. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 48a, says from here we learn that when the king arrives, everything is quiet. Meaning that all of these theatrics and craziness that happens, that's before the king comes. Once the king shows up, everybody's quiet. If they're still noisy, he's not the king. He's not the king. In the world today, people are scared of celebrity status, where they're losing it or going against it. People are scared to go against the norm, even though the norm is abnormal. Why? There's a lot of noise everywhere. But don't think that just because something is popular, that's what Hashem wants. There's 2 billion plus people that are Muslims that want to kill Jews. There's 2.5 billion Christian idol worshippers that are killing Jews spiritually on a regular basis. And at times also physically too. There are billions of people that are 100% idol worshippers from all countries and so on. You can't get any proofs as of validation of any kind as a result of large numbers. It doesn't mean anything. But you see, Rabotai, what you can get is 100% certainty. 100% certainty from just a few Jews. Because why? They rely on an opinion. It's the only opinion that counts. It's God's opinion. And God tells us His opinion, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, through His sages. If any of us goes against, especially openly, nonchalantly, carelessly, and arrogantly, against the opinions of our sages that were accepted as halacha, accepted as this is the foundation of Judaism, guess what? You officially become a void. You officially become something we ignore. You officially become something we don't listen to. Why? Because what you're saying is antithetical to our belief system. Whether you wear a kippah or not is irrelevant. Whether you have a beard or not is irrelevant. There are many people that have kippahs and beards that are horrible people, and many that are good people. There are many people that don't necessarily wear a kippah that are decent people. Now, you already know my opinion about Manus Freedom al-Asha. Every day he comes out with more videos that are worse than the ones from before. And he continues to get more and more popular by the day. Just today or yesterday, he got highlighted by some news outlet by having a video saying, "Don't fear." Like you shouldn't fear anything, as if there's nothing to be scared of, including God. And he continues to get more and more popular, and they continue to invite him in different synagogues that he's never been in a Sephardic community, in an Ashkenazi community, Hasidic community. He's invited everywhere. People simply are following the footsteps of the heretic. But guess what? He is a microcosm in comparison to a Ben Shapiro that has many more followers, both Jews and non-Jews. Meaning that he is not only hurting his fellow Jews with his heretical beliefs, but on top of it, he's giving the non-Jewish world ammunition to go against our belief system, because he's showing something that's the opposite of true. So it's very important for us to know that if you're going to continue listening to people that are heretics, you become a partner in a crime. And with that being said, Rabotai, you have to make sure that you take these things seriously. Not make any type of fighting wars on the internet. I hate you, you hate me. Not to make machloket between you and other Jews. Not to make a whole, who can insult each other better. But rather, you have to be careful with which friends you choose and where you spend your time. If your rabbi, your speaker, is a follower of atheists, is a friend of idol worshippers and so on, guess what? You're going to become one too. And this is the reason why Shapiro is moving to Boca Raton, by the way. There's a rabbi that's a perfect fit over there. It really is. He's moving to Boca Raton. That community. Why? Because that's his foundation, and that's where there's further teaching there. I wish he did tshuva because I think he'd do a lot of good. I just don't think it's likely. Why? He would have to stop what he's doing and actually start learning Torah. But that's not good for business. His business. And the only reason why I go public with stuff like this is because I know this is really the only way to get the message out there. To do private teachings, oh listen, Ben, you should change. It's not going to work. Why? Because those messages, those videos of his heretical teachings are out there in the millions. He would have to literally remove every single video he's made talking about religion, and on top of it, file copyright infringement on any single person that ever has his video on there, which is not happening, because then they would file against him and so on. Meaning, the damage is too big to fix. Hopefully, he can do tshuva at least to contain his own life, but I don't know how he can fix the rest of it. My concern is not really him. My concern is his followers, his listeners, that think that he's right. Because he's right on some other things, he's right on this. To say that, you don't necessarily believe in an afterlife 100% because there's no real proof to it, or the issues with souls, or that the MaShiach has to be a politician, or other different things that I've heard him say in different short clips that people have sent me that are literally antithetical to Judaism altogether. Or simply, just by itself, him saying that he only keeps the Torah because he thinks it makes sense for society, and not necessarily because God said so. Or best yet, my favorite, he says that Judaism does not believe in eternal punishment. Even though the Ramban writes in Shar HaGmul that eternal punishment is very much a fundamental belief of Judaism. The Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 17a and 16b, both say that eternal Gehinnom is very much standard in Judaism. And many other places, but no, Ben Shapiro, that never even finished anything in his life according to the Torah, he just decides that no, we don't believe in eternal Gehinnom. We don't believe in it's just a cleanup process because you have some schmutz, but then everything's okay. In so many words, Rabotai, he created a new religion, and he made Donald Trump or whoever right-minded person as the MaShiach. That's what he did, and that's a very, very dangerous person. Much more dangerous than a lot of people think. He may very well be a nice person, but apparently all the Netflix that he watches, all the movies that he talks about, apparently they made his mind a little stupid spiritually. A little stupid spiritually. And unfortunately, when you're a public person, it's too expensive for you to be stupid spiritually. Why? Because now your opinion is now other people's knowledge. Your opinion is other people's knowledge. Therefore, when your opinion is against the Torah, their knowledge is against the Torah. Therefore, they are going to go to Gehinnom because of you. So the only hope we have in order to reach some of those people is hopefully they watch this, or they hear about it from somebody else. It's really the only hope. At least we made our effort. But that's it, Rabotai. I'm not interested in debating him or anybody else. I have nothing in this. It's just that there's so much damage being caused by ourselves, by our own people. Our own people. And no one's really doing enough about it. So hopefully we can do something, maybe to encourage others to do more. But either way, the Torah itself tells us that we have an obligation. We have an obligation to say something. So, B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow night we'll have a questions and answer session. The Stump the Rabbi, B'ezrat Hashem, and then hopefully you guys have some questions. B'ezrat Hashem will have some answers. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have some mercy on us to give us better quality teachers, better quality leaders, better quality guidance from the people that have been gifted popularity and so on. HaShem, we have some more truth in the world and less shekel. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen.
B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, we're very excited to offer you the new Be'ezrat Hashem app 3.0. It's a newer, faster app full of Torah, lots of Kedusha by the Shiurim that we do, myself, Rav Ephraim, Rav Chaim, where you'll have also newer features where you're able to use the app while you're using other applications on your phone. You'll be able to share the lectures directly from the app. You'll be able to donate online and support our Cube and our Torah work that we're doing. And the most exciting feature is that you'll be able to actually ask questions directly on the app and get answers from the rabbis directly from the app. This is something unprecedented, and Baruch Hashem will be able to offer it. Thank you again for all of your support. Check it out. Make sure you have the kosher Torah that will re-energize your neshama each and every single day. Call to B'chavatzlacha.